Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports.
When it comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
I need to talk a little sports with you, Ags. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio. Billy Lucci here on TexAgs Radio. Olin Buchanan.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Do you realize everybody knows who you are right now?
I think we're coming into this year with a new confidence.
Schools are like, we're freaking Texas A&M, man. Like,
that's about as pretty a throw-catch combo as there is.
I saw the safety roll, the slot fade. I knew where I needed to put the ball.
You had no other option but one hand at that point.
Yeah, man, 50-50 ball, I got to come down with it.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Boy, was I wrong. Should have stayed with my gut from the preseason. The Michigan was going to win it all. I thought I was going to go with the hot hand, but I'm going to tell you right now, what we saw yesterday from Michigan, I think bodes well for Texas A&M, and I'll explain that here in a moment. It's TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. The Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. Maroon never looked so good with Maroon U. I'm David Nuño, and he is Olin Buchanan. OB, good morning, buddy.
Good morning. Yeah, that game last night kind of reminded you of the old style of football. Run the ball and play great defense.
Well, that's what I was going to get at, because what is Mike Elko known for?
Playing great defense.
Okay. Is he doing pretty good on the transfer portal when it comes to defensive names?
Yes, he is, as a matter of fact.
Does he have some pretty good pieces already in place?
I think so.
The last three national champions, Georgia, Michigan. Would you say they're known for their offense or they're known for their defense? Georgia had a good offense.
More so their defense.
Right, more so.
Right. Yeah, Georgia's good offense. I mean, Bowers and the running backs they've had, but really, you know what's been the star, if you will, of the Georgia offense?
What's that?
The line.
The line. There you go. Build the line, tough defense. Stetson Bennett ended up having some really nice numbers his last year at Georgia, but I don't think he was known as he finished much higher perception than he was even through his national championship run the first year, right?
He was an outstanding quarterback in that system with that, and was good at distributing the ball to all that talent around him.
I think J.J. McCarthy, as nice of a quarterback as he is, and a lot of people coming into the year thought he'd be a Heisman finalist, right? There was some talk of that.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't think of him that way. I don't think of him as a game manager. I think of him as a really nice quarterback.
I don't know what to think of him. I've seen him throw the ball really well.
Yep.
But they didn't need him to. And he had some nice throws. He had some bad throws last night, but he had some nice throws that were dropped on him too.
Yep.
One time he threw what I thought was an ill-advised pass for incomplete, and if he had just looked to his left and took off running, because he's a nice runner, he'd still be running today. But he managed. I don't know if he's technically a game manager, but he managed the game last night.
He managed the game last night. I'll say this about Washington, and again, I'm using an A&M comparison here. Although A&M didn't get blown out a lot, yesterday's game for Washington felt very A&M-esque because blown opportunities. If you make that pass when it's 17-3 on 4th and 7, you might score a touchdown on that play, or you might get into field goal range. Like, it just seemed like there was a play here and a play early fourth quarter. They had chances to tie the game. Like, they had chances. Was it?
Oh, absolutely.
And it ended up being a blowout.
Right.
There a player or two changes the complete perception of the way we look at that Washington game last night.
And you know what a big part of that was, though? And it goes back to the Michigan pass rush. They didn't always get to Penix, but they bothered him. Like on the interception on the first play of the second half, you know.
And that was part of the offensive lineman kind of falling into him. But that was because the pressure.
Because the pressure.
Yeah.
And that affected the rest of the game. But, yeah, he wasn't always hit. Sometimes he was just getting rid of the ball sooner than he wanted to.
Yep.
So I think Washington, well, we came into the game. Look, we were talking about yesterday. Washington's a more explosive team. I think they showed that, even though because they had those opportunities, they just wasn't able to put them together. Michigan, but we said Washington's the more explosive team. Michigan will win on the line of scrimmage.
Yep.
And they did it on both sides of the line of scrimmage.
So
more than 300 rushing yards.
To me, the game came down to this. It came down to, obviously, the defensive pressure caused problems for Washington all game long. Missed opportunities for Washington and big plays for Michigan. And those early big plays, Donovan
Edwards, 2 long runs,
set a tone. And it wasn't an insurmountable lead by any stretch, but it started feeling drastic. If you're Washington, you started panicking a little bit, right?
I don't feel like they were panicked. It was 17-10 at halftime, and they were going to get the ball.
No.
Now, I think what Michigan did wrong, I thought, was
going for it on fourth.
Yeah, I would have punted.
Yeah.
If I'm going to control the game, what am I going to do? Why am I going to give them a chance, right? But I also thought they got away from the run. Even when Washington started playing well, then play action, but or quarterback draws and things like that. But still, they
the coach in me, I'm not a coach, but the coach when I watch a game that comes out of all of us.
All right.
I used to be very conservative. It's fourth and 5, you got to punt or kick the field goal. I used to be that way. But watching Aggie football the last few years has made me in today's modern day of football, you got to go for it. Not all the time, but I just want more aggression. I want to assert our will on teams, and that means sometimes going for it on fourth down. I used to always want to punt, oh no, it's 4th and 7, got to punt. I've changed. College football's different now than it used to be.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, I think I like the idea of going for it more, but I also think that you've got to take in the flow of the game and the situation, and it's like when you gamble, you got to ask yourself, can I afford to lose?
Right.
Right. So when Michigan went for it just before the half, with a chance to go up, I guess they're looking to go up 21 or 24 to 3. But when they turn the ball over, not only does Washington get it to 39, but Washington gets a surge of momentum too. And they go down and score. And again, at 17-10, they're going to get the ball.
Yeah.
And you went from being in absolute control of the game to all of a sudden now it's kind of iffy.
So props to Michigan. Now, my question for them is, how are they going to be remembered a couple years from now? As more information comes out about the sign stealing scandal, if there is more, and all the stuff that happened before the season, how are they going to be looked at?
I don't know. Who won the 2004 national championship? Do you remember?
2004.
They just beat the living daylights out of Oklahoma.
Who was it?
USC. Remember, they just
beat
them.
And we
it was like 50 to.
Yeah.
Yeah, remember that?
And we still look at them as USC.
Yeah, with a player that was getting paid and stuff like that.
Right.
And
that was the Reggie Bush year?
Yeah. Well,
the year prior to him being the Heisman finalist.
So my point is
Heisman winner. Heisman finalist, sorry.
Right. My point is, first of all, I think Michigan did what everybody does or tries to do. They just did it in a different way.
Yeah.
To me, it's like the Astros. I'm not an Astros fan. I'm a Rangers fan. Astros I don't even think about that stuff. If it wasn't for whiny ass Richard Zane ever so often,
he's happy right now.
I would be completely forgetting about the whole Dodgers thing and all that. So no, some will.
Yeah.
But I think overall you'll just remember them. Hey, yeah, who won the national championship and I guess you'd call it the 2023 season, Michigan.
OB, there is some other A&M news out there.
Boy, isn't there?
They add 3 more.
It just never ends.
Dorian Hinton from Florida Atlantic.
Yeah.
Cassius Howell, I love that name.
Love that name, Cassius.
OLB, outside linebacker. And Bowling Green, Elijah Alston. All dudes right there. All dudes.
I guess.
Looking at the numbers, you got to do it at this level. But look at that, Cassius Howell. 9.5 sacks at Bowling Green. That's a nice number, buddy.
It's a nice number. Is it going to translate to the SEC?
If he gets you 6. Cartwheels?
I'll take it right now.
Right.
Look, especially where defensive guys are concerned, if you
just lost Edge Cooper, right? That's huge to get a guy of that caliber there.
If Elko likes him, I like him. I'll put it that way, especially on defense. Now, you can look at it this way. I don't know what they expect from him, but if it's a depth move, and it may not be. I mean, the guy had almost 10 sacks. But if it's a depth move, who would you rather have as your depth? A guy that got 10.5 or 9.5 sacks in the MAC?
Right.
Or a kid coming up in high school?
I think I'll take the MAC right now. I mean, I don't know. Like, there's no perfect science to it, right?
Right. I think I kind of wonder if Elko didn't come in, kind of evaluate the roster and the turnover, it's going both ways, and said, look, to win this year, I need to be not just active, but crazy in the portal.
Well, there's a lot of people out there, and I read it yesterday, and of course, when you go on social media, there's going to be two sides to everything, right? Mm-hmm. That think that this is not how you build a championship team. How the flip do you know? Like, you don't know.
Well, I would look at Washington.
Full of transfers. Full of transfers.
Got transfers everywhere.
By the way, I don't like Ole Miss. All they do is take in transfers. And they won 11 games this year.
Right.
It is too hard to evaluate today. Like, you got to take some risks today that you may have not taken.
By the way, you see who's going to be the Ohio State quarterback next year?
Who's going to be?
Isn't the guy from Kansas State?
Did he transfer in?
I think that's the word.
Okay.
And did you see who supposedly is going to be their running back?
Quinshon Judkins, yeah.
So,
are they taking transfers?
Right, and they're taking others, I'm sure.
I'm not saying you should be Colorado and take 75 transfers. What I'm saying is we don't know.
Don't know.
And if you're 7-5 and you were just 5-7, it doesn't matter. You got to change things up, guys. And that's what they're doing. And they're bringing in dudes right now. Elko said at his opening day press conference that they would probably go a little heavier portal right now than they will in the future until they get their culture, their guys in here. And by the way, at that point, I'm looking at these numbers. In 2022, Ole Miss had 18 transfers. They had a pretty good year, right?
Yeah.
And there's some other. Louisville had 10. Miami had 11. There's some schools that had bad years.
Right.
But that just tells you, and I'll go to 2023, okay? And by the way, I think 2022 is the year South Carolina had a bunch, and they had a nice year. In 2023, Colorado led the way. Louisville was second with 27. They had a darn good year.
They had a really good year.
So, again,
played for the ACC championship.
Ole Miss had 24, won 11 games. We don't know. What I do know, it wasn't good enough last year, and that's why there's been coaching changes throughout, and that's why there's personnel changes.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with what are we saying now? 17, 18?
I think it's
19. I don't have a problem with it, especially when I see some of the higher end guys like Scorton.
Yep.
I still think A&M has a really good nucleus returning. So the chance to have a good team, especially if they're better coached, is already there. I didn't say championship team. I said a good team. Now, if you bring in some experience production that can come in and like you think they'll do, like Scorton and some others.
It looks like 20 guys.
20. They're not going to be as active in signing guys. You know what? Typically, when you're a first-year coach, it's harder to recruit a great class. So would you rather ask yourself, would you rather have a lot of, and I don't mind, I'm not trying to dismiss 3-star guys, but some questionable 3-star, even 2-star, but A&M never takes 2-star guys, 3-star prospects that you're not sold on. It's Nye Smith guy's different. Everybody, Jimbo was sold on him right away. But would you rather have that guy for this year, or would you rather bring in a guy that has played well at the collegiate level?
Look, and there's still a couple more spots left. There's no more Elko tweets at the moment, but there's still some guys that will come to this team transfer-wise. I'm going to read you
Really?
Yeah. They're still
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I talked to Billy yesterday. He's like, look, they could take another linebacker. They could take another wide receiver. Absolutely. Another offensive lineman.
They got 3 offensive linemen in the portal.
Well, maybe he said that before Dorian Hinton. Yeah. That was before Dorian Hinton. I'm going to read you the names so far. Okay.
All right.
Defensive end, Elijah Alston Marshall. Defensive back, Marcus Radcliffe, San Diego State. Outside linebacker, Cassius Howell, Bowling Green. You've got nickel Brandon Johnson from Duke. You've got lineman Jacoby Jackson from Texas Tech. You got Rodis Johnson, Wisconsin.
Gives you some good depth in the defense.
Sorry, I'm reading some names that we didn't commit. I should go back to the committed ones. Apologies. Nick Scorton, obviously. Yeah. Jabari Barker, committed. There it is. Sorry, I was looking at a list that had a bunch of different stuff on it. There we go. Cyrus Allen, Marcus Radcliffe, Donovan Sanders, Jabari Barber, Derek Graham, Jaden Hill, Scooby Williams, Rodis Johnson, B.J. Mays, Armaj Reed Adams, E.J. Smith, Elijah Alston, Cassius Howell. The names already read, and Dorian Hinton from yesterday. So there we go. I guess I was looking at
Will Lee at cornerback.
Yeah.
You got B.J. Mays at cornerback. I mean, those guys could be potential starter. I don't know what you're going to do with Jaden Hill, but again, the scouting report on him is glowing.
Yep. And then if there's guys here that are better because of those dudes,
that's just a bonus.
Like there's a few players that we expect to take a step up, but we don't know.
Listen, and some of those guys may not be here after the spring.
Right.
Right? And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Not necessarily a bad thing.
Yep. And I'd like another big-time receiver. I'd like it. We could use another one.
Is there one out there?
I don't think. Is there? Oh. I mean,
yeah, I know where one is.
Wait,
He's a freshman. No.
Oh, yeah.
He's in Timpson, Texas.
Yeah.
Because that guy, Bussing, can play anywhere.
He can.
He's going to be a two-way player, they say.
If you want to be a part of the conversation this morning, you can do it multiple ways. You can call us, 979-693-1150. That we'll pick it up there on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. What did you think of the game last night? What do you think about all these transfers? Give us your thoughts. You can call us up on that Brian Foley Law Hotline or text us at 979-693-1150. Let's go behind the glass and say hi to Nick Savage. Nick, good morning, buddy.
Howdy, good morning, y'all.
How late did you stay up?
I watched the game, so I don't know, 10:30-ish.
Okay.
But, yeah, good game. Happy for Richard Zane and Luke Evangelos, the Michigan fans in the office. But
hey, can I be honest about something?
Yeah. What's up? I think I know where you're going.
No, I'm kind of like them that I semi-root for Miami. Okay? Because my youth, my oldest brother went there. I grew up going to Miami games.
I understand.
Right? Semi-root for them. I don't think I'm posting on social media my love for another college ever. I don't like. It's just not how I'm wired.
Yeah.
Like I want them to win. Okay, cool. Unless they play A&M. I don't know. It just seems like.
Yeah, it's like.
I think the thing is the family ties.
Yeah.
Do you have family ties to Miami?
Yes, I do. Okay. I just said it.
Okay.
My brother went there and my cousin went there. Yes.
Well, then, yeah, you did.
And I went to Miami baseball camp in 1989.
Nice.
So, yes.
Yeah. It's like adoring your cousin.
You don't admit it. You just
I mean,
you just do it.
Yeah, it's your cousin. Okay, yeah, I like them. I like my cousin, right? But I'm not going to celebrate their.
Wasn't there a movie about this with the dude from Cheers, Sam Malone? What's his name?
Ted Danson.
Ted Danson. There's a movie that I think he fell in love with his cousin.
Well, that's not what I'm
okay,
going.
Good.
I'm going a different direction.
Okay.
I'm just saying, like, if your kid does something, you celebrate it. Hey,
Heck yeah.
This one. But if your cousin does.
But I think Richard's dad went to Michigan, right? Am I right about that?
Yeah, but Richard didn't.
Right. I think you can celebrate it and be happy.
Yeah.
I just don't know if you wear the uniform.
Come in doing the M sign.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I'm judging. I apologize. I should take it back. Because I have celebrated Real Madrid here. So I'm guilty. We don't have a men's soccer team.
But you didn't play soccer to me, I'll give you a pass on that because it's a whole different realm.
I didn't wear a Houston Dash women's soccer team jersey here. So,
If you were from Barcelona.
Sorry, go ahead.
And celebrated Real Madrid, okay, then it might be an issue, right? But Richard and Luke and their ilk attend Texas A&M, but they're getting all crazy over Michigan.
I think they should, but just maybe temper it a little bit. Not be so flamboyant.
Act like you won.
Yeah, like.
I mean, your team still didn't win.
I'm happy. Like, I am not a Yankees fan at all.
Now, if you put money on the game,
that's different.
That's different.
Yeah, that is different. My dad is a huge Yankees fan, has been always. In Cuba, they played the Yankee games back in the 30s. Like, that's what he's. And yes, my dad was born in 1930. I have never rooted for the Yankees, but when they win it's been a long time, I was happy for my dad.
Once again,
I'm not wearing a Yankees jersey.
That's professional sports. Like, these guys go to A&M, and they're trumpeting Michigan.
But I'm happy for them at the same time. It's like I'm kind of walking on both sides. Like, I don't think you need to post a bunch of stuff on it and like wear Michigan pajamas to work, but celebrate.
Yeah, and they're acting like they went to Michigan. You know what? Why don't you take your ass back up to Michigan?
God, that was a little more than I was going to say. I'd rather you stay here. You guys do fine work. God, OB. Let's hit a break. Thanks, Nick. Appreciate you, buddy. Again, if you do want to call the show, 979-693-1150. And, of course, you can go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center where we have no one working, but I'll read those text messages right there. Now let's talk a little QC Kinetics. You can make the decision right now. You should stop what you're doing and listen up and reach out to our good friends there at QC Kinetics for lasting relief from that awful joint pain there in 2024. Don't go another year, compromising because that pain in your knee or your shoulder, wherever it may be. Maybe it's in your back. There's so many different areas. Call QC Kinetics right now. They're the nation's leader in regenerative, non-surgical pain relief. Your body has what it needs to restore and repair that damaged joint tissue, and all you need to do is have QC Kinetics kind of move you in that direction, make it happen with no drugs, no surgery, no downtime. The future of pain relief is right now. It has arrived. QC has tens of thousands of satisfied patients all over America. People with back pain, hip pain, any pain associated with an injury or maybe arthritis. This is not a Band-Aid. No, this is not going to just take care of it for a couple days. We've seen that before. This is revolutionary where you get your life back. And listen, it is non-surgical. It's a time of year to decide to fight back against that pain. Take the first step now by calling QC Kinetics. Call right now for a free consultation. Get it on the calendar. 979-452-6000. QC Kinetics. 979-452-6000. That is 979-452-6000. How long ago was it?
For what?
I don't know. You just
for Michigan to win the national championship.
1998, right?
Seems like yesterday.
It does.
It was.
It was yesterday.
But before that, it was long ago.
TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. Obi, I got a tweet from somebody.
Okay.
Let's see if I can find it. I think it's a joke, but somebody said, "This is all you, Nuño," and it was pickle-flavored Oreos. I think that's fake, but I hate pickles. I think pickles are like Al-Qaeda. That's how much I hate. I don't like
love
them.
Pickles.
Oh. They terrorize your mouth in a bad way.
Oh, I like pickles. Pickles taste good.
I'm not a big pickles guy. If they're really doing, I don't think they're really. I think it's a joke. If they're doing that, they're doing a disservice to the sweet community. Not that I'm a part of it.
Pickle didn't work for me with an Oreo. No. But I like them on my hamburger.
Oh, I think they ruined the burger experience.
Oh, I like
the entire experience has been ruined.
Okay.
You know why?
Why?
Because they leave this green imprint, and it's like
Green?
peeing on the carpet. Yeah.
I've never seen.
You've never seen what a pickle does to white bread? It soaks through, and then there's a big soft spot. It's like when the dogs pee on a carpet.
I guess because when I get my burger with the pickle in it, I eat it. I don't open it up and
I take it off. I move it off. It's an automatic, and I try to put ketchup over it just to try to get rid of the smell and the taste. No. It doesn't work.
I like just to eat a big dill pickle.
I bet.
Just by itself.
Just by itself.
Yeah.
Time for the big performance of the week, OB.
Okay.
I think we're going to start off with you start one off for me. You give me one.
Because I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan and I want to localize it. Donovan Wilson with a big interception.
Yeah.
Donovan was so good about creating turnovers here. I mean, he was a turnover getting son of a gun. And he's doing the same thing with the Cowboys. That was a big interception. So Donovan Wilson. Man, what a 6th-round pick he's turned out to be.
He's been phenomenal. I'm going to give you another one, OB. Are you familiar with a gentleman by the name of Devon Achane?
Achane, Ran, I don't know. But yeah, I'm familiar with number 28.
I forget how many games he missed. But I know C.J. Stroud missed a couple games. Those two guys, to me, could be 1A, 1B for Offensive Rookie of the Year. You're laughing. The text you got?
Dumb prodiger sending me something.
About pickles?
No.
Oh, okay.
About Cousins.
Oh.
Devon Achane. Look at that. He missed. You're right. I can't remember.
I think
it says 11 games. That means he missed 6.
Oh, he missed a lot more than C.J. Stroud then. Okay.
So
look at that though. 11 games this year.
7.8 yards a carry. 11 touchdowns. So a touchdown a game, and they're just scratching the surface on what this guy can be. Wait till they start throwing to him and figure out how to isolate him on wheel routes and things like that, because he has great hands.
He does. He had 1 touchdown this weekend, 10 carries, 56 yards, but that touchdown was a 25-yarder.
Beautiful. Did you see it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was beautiful.
Take the shoes off of one guy.
I wish I could move like that. So Devon Achane is one of those. I'm going to give you another one. Are you familiar with the work of the alcoholic?
Oh, yeah.
Mike Elko.
Man, I'm all about alcoholism.
So, what was it? How many okay, Nick, these numbers are, is it 14 since Thursday? Am I right? Does that sound right?
I believe so. Let me.
Because it was 11 leading into yesterday.
It was 11 commits coming in, in a span of 4 days yesterday. So add 3 more in 5 days. So 14 in 5 days.
And, I don't even need to say this every time we talk about the transfer. We'll see. We will see. But I'm excited about what I'm seeing on paper right now.
Well, I like how aggressive he is in building his roster.
Yep.
And some of those guys I've never heard of, and some of them I have. And I'm really glad to see that they're going to be playing for Texas A&M.
I am too. I am absolutely too. By the way, I'm going to do one more. Tonight, A&M women's basketball. No, not tonight. Excuse me. Thursday. Take on your friend.
My friend.
Kim Mulkey.
Kim Mulkey.
Kim Mulkey. She's not your friend.
I always got along with her.
She's nice. She could be a little snappy with the media, but she's nice.
Oh, yeah. I would hate to cover her team on a daily basis because she wants to tell you, here's the story. I say, no. It might be in your mind, but
in my mind.
Yeah. But I never had a problem with her. I mean, she coaches like so many men coach, and nobody has problems. She's just
I covered her
she's
for a
snapping turtle.
I covered her in 2005. Was it 2 years after they won the national championship? Or maybe a year after, whatever it was, 05, 06 era. And I thought she's a little intimidating at times, like the way she responds. She's got a little bit of that in her, but she was fun to deal with. I only bring that up because Janiah Barker had her 7th double-double there against Auburn the other night.
And they're going to play LSU on Thursday.
Yeah.
You know, they dang near beat LSU here last year with all the issues they have. Now, I know, that they're going to be underdogs, but Janiah Barker, she had a really strong game against Auburn. They won. She struggled somewhat against Georgia, and they lost, so maybe she's the key.
She might be the key. All right, the remainder of the show, this is what we got for you. I should have told you this in the opening segment. Charean Williams joining us to chit-chat at 8:35 here in a few minutes. Katy Lee coming in studio at 9 o'clock to talk about the Aggie women's basketball team. We will have Jonathan Hutton from Outkick at 9:35 to talk about the national championship game. Justin Lanham talk a little Aggie basketball. And we'll talk to Dr. John Thornton.
Oh, man.
Love that dude.
He's great.
He's a very nice man and just wealth of knowledge there. So we'll do that here for the remainder of the program. Right now we're talking Heritage Films, Chance McClain's company. They make documentary films. Those of you who are listening right now who have heard me talk about it and you've just let time go. I'm going to tell you that you don't want to let time go too far, because there's going to be a moment you're going to like, man, I should have called and hooked up with Chance and had my dad tell his story, had my mom tell her story. Should have done that. It's too late. You don't want it to be too late, guys. Time is precious, and the beauty of what Chance does is he captures your family memories and does it in this amazing Hollywood-esque documentary-style form that is something that you can keep for generation after generation, for kids to come watch, their kids later, and it's awesome. And you get a first-hand account of how the family was started, how the family business was started, how the family ranch was started. It's just such a cool thing. It's really for anybody, right? It could be your neighbor, it could be your boss. It's something that you can really honor somebody's name in your family. You can also do a year flicks where you get to show the youngers a little bit of their light, right? Like freshman year of college, why don't you tell your kid's story with a year flicks there? It's a 20-minute video, a little shorter, a little bit more high energy / like a social media vibe to it. But it's Q&A with the green screen in the background. It is awesome. The website, yourheritagefilm.com, 713-893-8341. Yourheritagefilm.com, 713-893-8341. It's Heritage Films. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Before we bring in Charean, you mentioned to me, we're 30 minutes into the show, and we haven't brought up Kevin Smith.
Who's going to be inducted at some point, I don't know the exact day, into the College Football Hall of Fame.
Don't they usually do it around
December?
Yeah, during Super Bowl, not Super Bowl week.
National Championship
week.
Yeah. So anyway, the point is, well-deserved. Great player here. Great player for the Cowboys, especially before his injury. But great person, by the way.
Yeah.
And he's a great TexAgger.
I heard he posts a bunch.
He is active on TexAgs.
Kevin, I'm calling you up soon, buddy. Got to get you on the show. Let's go right now to the Brian Foley Law Hotline. We're joined by Charean Williams of Pro Football Talk. Charean, let's talk a little Kevin Smith to start it off. How are you?
I'm great. One of my favorite players of all time. Actually covered him at all three levels. I started my career as the Orange Leader, home of R.C. Slocum, and home of Kevin Smith, Pup, as he likes to be called. And just an outstanding player. He went to the state championship. I think they won the state championship that year, if I recall. But just a great player in high school. And then he went to A&M. I went to Bryan College Station Eagle and got to cover him at A&M and see him play there, and obviously turn himself into a first-round draft pick. And then, I ended up covering the NFL and cover him there. So just a great career all the way around for Kevin Smith.
You're both in Hall of Fame.
At all three levels. What'd you say, Olin?
I said you're both in Hall of Fame, so y'all's career kind of was parallel.
Yeah, well, there you go. So, just love Kevin Smith as a person and as a player.
Charean, let's go to the game last night. What'd you think about Michigan and how they got it done?
Very impressive by Michigan, and I didn't think as a nonpartisan, just observer of the game, I honestly didn't care who won or lost the game. I didn't think it was a very good game, not a very good game to watch, even when it was close. When Michigan went for the fourth down and didn't get it, and Washington went down and scored. I never felt like Michigan was going to lose that game from the start. From that very first series when Michigan just imposed their will, went right down the field. You saw they were going to rush for a lot of yards, and they did, 303 yards. It takes a lot of discipline to run the ball more than you pass it in the game now. And they did that. And if Texas had done that when they played them a week earlier, I think Texas would have been in the championship game, but they didn't. They threw, 45 times, I think it was, in that game. It was too many passes. Now, part of it was they were trying to catch up late, but I do think if Texas had committed to the run, I think Texas would have beaten Washington.
Yeah, I agree with you. Gosh, we were talking about how it was kind of a throwback to the old days of, and maybe not so old, but you're going to win with strong defense and a good running game.
Yeah.
Is that what A&M should do? Adopt that philosophy?
If you have the offensive line and are able to run the football consistently, I think you're going to win. But coaches want to throw the ball. Offensive coordinators want to throw the ball. Quarterbacks want to throw the ball. That's flashy. They want to see quick touchdowns, but they want to see 80-yard drives consistently. They want to see explosive plays and great catches and all those things. So the game has just changed. But there are games when you have to run the ball to win the game. And if you can run like that, we saw it, A&M saw it against LSU 2 years ago in 2022 in that impressive game by Devon. And we saw that he could run the ball and run it up the middle and run it consistently. And they committed to the run and they beat LSU. It can be done, but it takes so much discipline by an offensive coordinator and a quarterback to just sit there and run the ball play after play after play. And Michigan did that, and kudos to them for winning that way. It wasn't pretty, but who cares? They got their national championship, and they're putting in their trophy case.
Yeah, it goes back to the offensive line.
Yep.
And if you're good there, you're going to be good.
100%.
Yeah.
Charean, let's talk a little bit about A&M. They've added to their offensive line. They've added to their defensive line. They've added to their linebackers. They've added everywhere. Your thoughts on this run of Elko's run?
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Whether you like the portal or hate the portal is a different argument altogether. But you have to embrace the portal. You have to. And Jimbo didn't want to do that, and he paid the price for it. because again, it's just like free agency in the NFL. You see what guys have done at other schools. You have evidence. This guy's going to be a good player. I see this in this player. It's just like what they do in the NFL with guys who their rookie contracts, end in 4 years. They've gotten 4 years of evidence of what those guys can do in the pros. And so, you have to embrace the new age of college football and what it is, and he's done that, and he's filled in holes, and he's filled them in great. And those would be better, frankly. I like the fact that he talked about after signing day that he wasn't just going to sign players for the sake of signing players. They filled in their holes with guys who have been productive at the upper level, at past high school. They've seen it in college and what those guys can do. I love the way a lot of these guys you've never heard of, but you look at their stats, and they've been really productive at wherever they've been, whether it's Bowling Green or wherever, Marshall. They've just been really productive at these schools where they played, and I think they're going to be productive at A&M. And Olin, back to your point, Bill Parcells taught me you win along the offensive and defensive lines. If you have a good offensive line and a good defensive line, you're going to be in most games. And I think that has impressed me more than anything about Elko is the way he's been building and having competition in the offensive line and the defensive line. And I think Texas A&M next year is going to be very good on both sides of the ball, on the offensive line and the defensive line. And they're going to be deep.
Well, just hearing that, see, Charean, I want to agree with you. I agree with you almost 100%, but I've told myself as an Aggie follower and observer, I'm only going to be cautiously optimistic from now on.
Yeah.
I can't go all in yet until I see them beat a Notre Dame.
But what is all in? Like all in means you
allow myself to think that they're going to have a great year.
And a great year is 10 or more?
10 or more.
Yeah, I get it. I understand. But I completely get it. There's been so many losses and so many bad seasons and everything else. And you get your hopes up. They're ranked 6th in the country. You're like, oh, this is going to be our year. And then, they lose to App State or whoever they lose to, and it's over.
But I agree with you.
I'm with you on that.
But I agree with you, or at least I've always felt like the first steps toward those great seasons is being strong in the offensive and defensive lines. Yes, I agree with you and Bill Parcells.
You know what else I like is the player, and I don't know this for a fact, but a lot of the players that he signed out of the portal haven't come from big schools. I love that because I think that's a blue-collar mentality of we're going to work hard. Nothing was given to me. I didn't go to Alabama. I didn't go to Michigan. I wasn't offered by those schools, but I went to whatever school it is, and I made good. And now I get to go play in front of 100,000 people in the SEC every single week, and I'm going to prove it there too. That's the feel it has for me, is that work ethic, and we're going to be all in on this. I wasn't a 5-star recruit who everything was given to me when I came in. I've got to go earn this, and I still have to go earn this. So, that's kind of what I've read into the players that he signed. Maybe I'm going to be completely wrong about that, but that's the feel I get about this class, this portal class that he's signing.
Talking to Charean Williams. Charean, let's talk a little Aggie basketball. Yesterday, my feeling was Buzz deserves a little grace, but I mean, I'm getting worried, especially with the stretch coming up.
Yeah, it wasn't good. I was really down after that game. Speaking of getting your hopes up and getting them crushed, and I had a couple friends kind of bring me back to early. Oh, it's early. It's basketball. You can afford to lose some, but I didn't like the looks of that game, anything about it, and you're playing a bad team at home, and you can't figure it. Not only can you not the double-digit point favorite, you can't figure out a way to win. You lose by double digits. So, yeah, it was just not a good performance. And, yeah, I do trust in Buzz. I think we have the right coach. I hope he can figure out how to turn this team around and get them going because I do still have promise in what they can deliver, but that was just not a good game. I think it was probably the worst effort they've had since the Wolford game a year ago.
Yeah, it's hard to
top
argue that one. Yeah.
Charean, great stuff as always. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Wait,
we didn't do Aggies in the NFL. I'm over here looking at the clock. You know what? Screw the clock. Screw Louie. I'm kidding, Louie. Go ahead.
I'll be quick.
Take your time. No, take your time.
A-Chan is going to be the honorable mention. 10 carries, 56 yards, touchdown, 25-yard touchdown. One catch for 5 yards. I didn't think the Dolphins used him wisely or as much as they should have. Jeff Wilson, who's been a threat to hit the home run, had 9 carries. They did not use A-Chan as they should have, paid the price, lost to the Bills. Now they're a wild card team that has to go and play at Kansas City. Number 3, Donovan Wilson. 2 weeks in a row, he's had an interception for the Cowboys, 5 tackles, pass defense. He's really playing well right now for Olin's Cowboys. Number 2, Tyrell Dodson. He only played 20 snaps, got hurt, but 3 tackles, a sack, a tackles for loss in that victory over the Dolphins. And I don't know if people realize how well he has played. One of the top. I had him on my second team on pro team. He has played that well this year. Really had an outstanding year, best year of his career. And number 1, I'm going to go with Ryan Tannehill. 17 of 26, 168 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception. He won the division title for the Houston Texans by helping the Titans upset the Jaguars on Sunday, and what will be likely his final game with the Titans, and he'll be a free agent in the offseason. We'll see if he gets an opportunity to go somewhere and start.
Charean, thank you so much. And C.J. Stroud, by the way, I love that kid. Just got to say it out loud.
Yeah, me too. Love him.
Talk to you soon. See ya.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Charean Williams, Pro Football Talk Hall of Famer and our friend. And I felt bad that I cut her off early. I was just looking at the clock, OB. Now I'm taking my time.
Yeah, you're like, you
timekeeper.
You need to work on your time management.
I do.
Clock management.
I show up early and I leave late. Well, at least I need to. All right, we'll come back with some text messages next here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. That Charean Williams interview was on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. OB, let's get to some text messages.
Let's do.
A 970 sends in a text message that says, I'm with Nuño on pickles. Vile weed.
Okay, well, some people like pickles, some don't. That's fine.
At 8:22 in the morning, Jack, class of 76, said, love it, OB. What did you say at 8:22? Was that the Cousins comment?
I don't know.
Huh.
I don't know.
Dave in Temple, as far as jumping into the portal too heavily, when you lose a bunch to the portal, I don't believe standard recruiting can catch you up. We were down to 55 scholarship players in the bowl after 4 or 5 playing their last game. Going into a season with a full load of talent is better than lacking 5 or 10 potential depth. And
right.
Nick brought up during the break right after that I think they went into last season still with some spots available.
Right, and they were playing in the bowl game with walk-ons starting at some positions, right? So again, where you come away with that, some of those guys will probably leave after the spring.
Sure.
But what you're doing is you're filling out your roster with depth that has, like Charean said, what we had said earlier, is with guys that have played and been successful in college. You're not saying, okay, we're going to have these guys that a nucleus of a really good team coming back,
right?
But everybody behind them are going to be freshmen, which is kind of what you got into last year in, for instance, the Ole Miss game, and you're starting 2 true freshmen at corner.
Right.
Well, where did you have problems in that game?
They threw all over you.
It doesn't mean that those freshmen aren't going to be good players someday.
It takes time.
But what you have now is, and you're going to, theoretically, this season, you're going to have, if somebody gets hurt or if they're sick for a game or whatever, I've got somebody to step in and play that has played in college and played well.
I told you this when I got here in 21. I would prefer older players that aren't as good to start the season than younger players that have more talent, and let that young player win that starting battle
absolutely
as the year progresses. Not that they're already the best out there, because I think there is something about learning the position, learning how to be a college player. There are some Torian Yorks out there, right?
Right.
They're so dynamic, you put them out there. Bryce Foster, his freshman year, made total sense. I get it. But I wish, was it Luke Matthews, was healthy, that could have competed with him there at that center spot?
Right. What you want, right. If you have a freshman that's the best guy because he's that talented, I don't want to play a freshman because he's the best guy because that's all you got.
Right.
And I think, again, Elko is bringing in guys that some will start, but some will provide that depth, and they will play, that have played well at the collegiate level. Instead of saying, hey, let's throw some young kids into the wind and hope for the best.
Right. OB, thank you, sir.
You bet.
All right, when we come back here on TexAgs Radio, a little Katy Lee action. We'll talk Aggie women's basketball. After that, Jonathan Hutton of Outkick. We'll go deep into the national championship game and get his thoughts on that. Justin Lanham and Dr. John Thornton after that to talk some Aggie hoops during the 10 o'clock hour. If you want to be a part of the conversation, you can call or text us 979-693-1150. It is TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Welcome back into TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Aggie women's basketball heading to Baton Rouge to take on LSU on Thursday. Let's talk about the start of SEC play and just how the season is going with Katy Lee here in studio. Hello.
Hello.
How you been?
I'm great. It's the new year.
It is the new year. I have to apologize. I talked Logan's ear off the other day while you guys were on vacation.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't notice.
So, well,
there you go.
It was like 30 minutes. I was like, dude, I just realized you're like, I think you guys were at a park or something. I'm sorry.
We've been married for almost 20 years at this point. Or we've been together for almost 20 years. One thing goes in one ear and out the other. It doesn't matter.
So
we're good.
I'm going to start off with the obvious, easy, dumb question. I know they're the national champions. How good is LSU this year?
They're good in respect to the physical play. There's been some issues at home, with their locker room and things like that. So obviously with Angel Reese having to be dismissed, nobody really knows the full story. And I'm not going to sit here and try to speculate. So
when their moms tweeting about it or stuff
there were some moms involved. It was very interesting. Here's the bottom line. When the locker room isn't solid, it's really, really hard to perform at a championship caliber.
We've seen that on football over here.
We've seen it a few times. And I look back and say look at the 2011 team. Not only was their play good, they had each other's backs. They were best of friends. They loved each other. Locker room was fun. Traveling was fun. Everything about it had this unity about it. And so when you look at an LSU that's having a few issues right now, or has in the past, even if they have them all nailed out right now, they're ironed out right now, they're all good, they're still probably going to have some question marks behind their play. And I'll tell you what, if they're vulnerable, A&M will come out on top if they remain vulnerable, because A&M is good enough. They're good enough to walk on Pete Maravich court and win that game. But they have to come ready. They have to come with their arsenal locked and loaded.
And as a player and a coach, people don't want to look too far ahead, but it's not just LSU coming up.
It is not. We have a gauntlet of a schedule coming up. You have Tennessee, you have South Carolina. SEC in general is tough.
Right.
You're not going to get away. You're not going to go, okay, we have two really tough games, and then, we kind of have this gimme. It's not how SEC play is, I think, on the men's or the women's side. But SEC on the women's side this year is really, really stout. You've got the number one team in the country. According to some, you have, 2 additional top 5 teams. So you've got some really good young ladies playing basketball at this level, but A&M is right there with them.
So considering this stretch, and by the way, the men are about to go through a very difficult stretch as well.
Right.
How important is it to navigate, because you don't want to fall too far behind,
right?
Because then it changes the perception. You have too much catching up to do.
Yeah.
A few wins here kind of also changes the trajectory.
Right. So they're in the net top 25. They have been for the last few games. They've been receiving votes on the coaches poll. And so they're right there. They're right at the cusp of that top 25 marker. A loss at LSU is what everybody expects, right? That's if they come in and win, it plummet or it
You're
helps.
top 25. Then.
That's right. It helps get them where they're wanting to go. If they lose against Tennessee, there's some more question marks. If they lose at home against South Carolina, again, it's the number one team in the country. You don't want to set yourself up for losing, period. You don't want to be 1-4 in start SEC play. But it is a really tough road ahead. But I'm going to tell you what, I don't think that's where we're going to be. I really think that we're going to sneak one in. I truly, truly do. They're locked and loaded right now. They're focused. They're playing well. The game against Auburn was really dicey. And it's because you had 2 coaches on their staff that was formerly from A&M. One played Dimitri Buchanan. The head coach was one of my assistant coaches, and Johnny Harris. And then you had Aisha Coulibaly, who was their best player, all-conference player last year, who transferred to Texas A&M.
Emotional for her.
Oh, so and you have teammates. You're trying to play your very best, but not overdo it, but still put an exclamation point on the end, right?
Right.
very difficult situation. But let me tell you that the dynamic between Aisha and Joni was remarkable during that game. Joni let Aisha play with emotion without playing out of control. And that's a very delicate balance. But if Aisha can go and play like that at LSU, if Lauren Ware can control the paint, they've got a big that's big that controls a lot of the games. If our guards can handle their point guards, India Rogers is going to be a huge element to this game because their guards, they've got people all over the court. Let's just put it that way. Our starting five, they have to play one of the best games they've played all season long.
What do you like about what you've seen this year? And maybe what do they need to get better at?
Get better at is starting and finishing the game strong. And it's as simple as that. There's not a whole lot else out there that you won't see them get better little by little over the course of the season, right? They're on a really good trajectory, which I would never even contemplate saying maybe they go and sneak one in Baton Rouge if they weren't, right? It'd be so silly of me to say that. Specifically, what I've liked is in the offseason, Coach Yo, our strength and conditioning coach, has done a phenomenal job with them. Phenomenal job. Their physique, their mentality, their mental and physical toughness, their entire just dynamic of their body is incredible.
Right.
You see that on the court now. You can see that in their toughness. You can see that in their ability to get to the hole and convert, and also have convert and ones. But one thing that I really like is I love the headiness of India Rogers and her leadership. She's a fifth year. I love the fact that Lauren Ware has played in a national championship game, set all of last season, and can still come in and not only be the mother hen off the court, but be a true leader on the court.
Right.
And she leads the country in some stats that are pretty remarkable, specifically blocks. India Rogers, I think, same thing, assist to turnover ratio is one of the top kids in the country. But then you have Janiah Barker, who is just a sophomore. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. And I've been around really, really dynamic players in Danielle Adams and Sydney Colson, Sydney Carter, and the whole crew that came out of that, pretty much that 2008 to 2011 stint. Janiah Barker has the toolkit. She may not be, but she has the toolkit to be not only one of the best players to ever play here, but she could very well be the best to ever graduate from here if she continues to put it together. She has all of the elements, all the
and she
makeup,
has it here,
and she's got it there.
Yep.
She's getting better. Now here's the thing: she plays with so much emotion, which you desire as a coach. But emotion can also be a double-edged sword, and she's in that zone where she's learning how to control it, but she's still playing with a lot of it, which is really cool. And then you'll see Joni and Janiah's dynamic between USA Basketball and just Joni has known Janiah for a very long time, recruited her for a while. They have such a mother-daughter relationship. It's really special to see. You'll see Janiah come off the court, Joni being Joni and just completely stable and calm and cool, collective. And then Janiah come off and really amped up, and then all of a sudden you see Janiah go, and it's almost that deep breath that's needed. Just the dynamic of the team is really, really neat to see. But I think that's what I think is the most positive. It's not necessarily the basketball elements. It's the way that they're coming together on and off the court, mentally, physically, emotionally. They're just playing good basketball.
On the men's side, there's certain types of players that work for Buzz. Are there certain types of players that work for Joni, or is she kind of a hybrid? She kind of adapts to what she has.
I'm glad you said that word, because that was the one word I was thinking is Joni is such a hybrid. She is the one, she was the right hire at the right time. I truly, honestly believe it. She is young enough to understand what these players are going through. She's, I don't want to say old enough, but she has she is mature enough to know what's expected of her and her coaching staff and to lead the team accordingly. But I think the one thing I appreciate about Joni is the fact that she doesn't coach them for just basketball. She coaches them for the game of life.
Right.
And the things that she does beyond basketball, ironically, she has a program called Beyond Basketball. But the things that she does beyond basketball are really remarkable with these young ladies. She coaches them about what it means to handle finances. She talks to them about what it means to handle communication and interviews, how to handle money. NIL's now a thing. We have to be thinking about that. So it's a lot of the dynamic that goes on beyond the court that she's nailed it. She's done a great job, and people desire to play for her. One interesting thing I learned about Joni Taylor is you're not even applicable to transfer here out of the portal if she doesn't already have a relationship with you. Oh, wow. She either had to coach you, see you in college play, recruit you out of high school, play at USA basketball, like coach you within USA basketball. So there's these little touch points that she is, in her own philosophy, is I need to know this player because I need to not only know that she can play, she has to fit within the dynamic that we're trying to create here at Texas A&M. And so, again, to not have this open door policy that you have to actually cut through the criteria to even have that entry point is pretty remarkable in today's age. And let me tell you, I doubt we see very many transfers going outbound of Texas A&M.
So another thing about Joni that I think she's done such a good job, you don't even think about it, but when you follow a legend, right?
It's hard.
It is. Not only is it hard, like you don't live up to it, and that's not the talk with Joni, right?
And she's done it twice.
Yeah.
She did it with Andy Lander and at University of Georgia, and then now she's doing it here with Gary Blair. And it's pretty great to see the fact that she's developed such a rapport with them and has their support. Joni doesn't have to be Gary Blair's follow-up coach. She can just be Joni,
right? Which
is what she knows that, and I think it almost requires that mentality that doesn't categorize yourself. Hey, I'm following a legend. No, I'm coming in and I'm going to coach the way I know how to coach, and I'm going to do the program the way I know how I want it to be built. Again, Gary did remarkable things over the course of his 19 years here, and he continues to. It was a good change, all for the right reasons. And like I said, I truly, honestly believe Joni was the right person.
One thing about NIL that you mentioned a second ago, in football and in basketball, and mostly in football, people have noticed a kind of a change in certain types of behaviors in players.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that in the women's game?
Again, I go back to it's bigger than the game of basketball, right? You have to teach these life skills, and that's what they're doing. Fortunately, we have really remarkable personalities with the young ladies on our team. Down to earth, able to talk, able to just be human. They're not looking for the next dollar sign. Would they enjoy it? Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Who wouldn't? But they have their program set up to where they understand who's getting what and when. And take Janiah Barker, for example. She's going to have opportunities, but they're really, really good at understanding where the dynamic is on the team and how to use NIL to their advantage, both for the existing players and players that they're wanting to recruit to come in.
What about outside of this program, just the women's game in general?
It's gotten messy.
I mean, Angel's the one that comes up a lot from last year, but like other places too, right?
Well, let's take LSU just for example. You've got Liz Dune, the gymnast, who's insanely rich at this point, just due to what she does.
Yep,
we'll call it that. And you've got Angel Reese, and they've understood how to coin NIL, how to use it to their advantage. Great for them. I'll tell you, I'll take our players' personalities and mentality regarding NIL, what it's used for, and how to use it to their advantage and not exploit it any day. I'm not really sure on the outside of Texas A&M. Women's basketball is not as huge of an impact as men's basketball and football, just because the money doesn't follow it as well. And I think we all can be mature enough to say that. But it's this NIL can be a scary world. It can also be a very, very dynamic and beautiful world if it's used right.
One thing about the Auburn game that I found interesting was it was a blowout, 22-point win, but it still didn't feel like there's a lot of teaching that can happen from that.
Did you
game.
notice the beginning and the end of the game?
Right, right.
Well, and you're right. It's teaching and learning points. They didn't do something well at Georgia, and they did do it well against Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see that emphasis going into LSU. You know, there's a change in defenses when someone plays us man versus when someone plays us zone, and the way A&M reacts, right? One is a little bit more positive, one is a little bit more negative. So there are certain things that they've learned early. You know, they've played a good schedule. Played at Purdue, played a true road game at Cal, even though it was a tournament, but beat Cal at Cal. Haven't played too many other major teams other than, you know, you got your Kansas in there and a few others. They're coming. And SEC is a gauntlet on like you mentioned, men's and women's side. So having that taste early on the road, you got a road game and an SEC opener out of the way. Yeah, you lost by 4. Lots of good lessons learned. Similar to how we went on a 10-win streak after losing at Purdue. Similar here. I'm hoping that's the same outcome. May not be, but you know what? They've got a really good chance to be pretty dynamic. I'm truly if I had to put my money on it now, they're looking at a top 5 finish if they can hold it together.
This team hangs their hat on defense and rebounding? Absolutely.
They're controllables, right? There's certain things you can and can't control. You can't control how the defense plays you when you're on offense. Offense you have to make a lot of decisions along the way. You can control rebounding. Right now, I think they're like number 4 in the country in rebounding margin. They're number 2 and 3 in the country in scoring output on the defensive end and field goal scoring percentage. They're remarkable on the defensive end. So yeah, defense is driving their offense. But remember, Joni wants to score in the first 8 to 10 seconds.
Sure.
She doesn't want to slow down. So is
it the old Mike D'Antoni style?
When opponents apply full court pressure, that changes that dynamic, right? So then what's next? Then how do you have to react?
And the point guard in that kind of offense is the key to everything.
It's the key to everything.
Yeah.
And you've got a good one in India Rogers.
Last question for you.
Okay.
Do you watch men's basketball with the same lens that you do women's, and vice versa? Does Logan watch women's with the same? Like, how critical can you be when it's the same game, but it's a different game?
Yeah, it's funny that you asked because we had Auburn, and then we went and the day prior to that, we watched the men's game here at Reed Arena with some friends of ours that came into town, and rarely did Logan.
Matt was here.
Matt Koeneke. Yeah, hi,
I met
Matt,
him.
if you're listening. And their family's great. I wish they lived here. As far as lens goes, Logan and I rarely talk during a game. I may ask him a question, or I may get some clarification as to why, or I may throw my opinion out there. Logan's quiet. He likes to observe. If you're next to Logan Lee at a basketball game, let me do you a favor and say, don't talk too much to him, because
he wants to observe and
he analyzes and he watches it, and he is a consummate learner of the game of basketball, and he loves it, both the good and the bad, right? And so, but there's so many role changes between the two genders.
Yep.
I mean, take for example the charge role. If you're now on the women's side, the circle doesn't apply, but it does on the men. Right. So a very subtle change that most people don't even know that rule changed. It's pretty cool, but when we look at those games, the lenses we look in are simply out of the skill of the person.
Right.
It has nothing to really do with, they're playing above the rim and we're playing below the rim, but the skill of the person, because the skill doesn't change much. The velocity and the trajectory sometimes does, and that's the major difference. But no, this from a skill lens, it's pretty similar.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thanks for letting me talk your ear off.
Yeah, I loved it. We'll do it again.
All right.
All right, we're going to hit a break here. When we come back, Nick's got a couple things for us to talk about. And then after that, Jonathan Hutton from Outkick the Coverage next on TexAgs Radio. Welcome back in. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Hope everybody's having a great morning here on Tuesday, January 9th. My Isla turns 11 today, so happy birthday, Isla. I'm going to go have lunch with her after the show and go celebrate with her with a soccer practice this evening. If you want to be a part of the conversation, you can do it by calling or texting 979-693-1150. If you call, we'll pick it up on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. We've talked a little women's basketball as they take on LSU on Thursday. You've got men's basketball that we're going to get into deep in the 10 o'clock hour. Big game against Auburn obviously coming up. And we've talked about the transfer portal, adding 3 more guys A&M did yesterday, the national championship game. What do you guys think about that? All those you can call about, or you can text us at 979-693-1150. NFL games getting started. Obviously, Cowboys, big one. You've got Texans in a big one. Let's talk to Nick about some Aggies that are playing out there in the playoffs.
Yeah, so there are 15 Aggies playing in the NFL playoffs coming up. Linebacker Terrell Dodson for the Bills, Bobby Brown for the Rams, Josh Reynolds for the Detroit Lions, Braden Mann, Jets, Evans, I think he's still with the Chiefs, Achan, with the Dolphins, Donovan Wilson, Cowboys, Buddy Johnson. Are you familiar where he's playing? I'm not entirely sure. But
It's not the Steelers anymore.
Is it the Steelers?
No, it's not. It's not. Buddy Johnson, where is he? Cowboys.
Okay, so he's with the Cowboys. DeMarvin Leal, he's with the Steelers, correct?
Correct.
Dan Moore Jr., Mike Evans, Justin Matabike, Myles Garrett, Kenyon Green. I guess he's not playing, but he's on a team that's in the playoffs. And Von Miller. So those are your Aggies in the NFL playoffs.
By the way, some of the names that you mentioned there that are Aggies are having career years, and the kind of years that are like leading highlights every week, right? I'm sorry?
I said Justin Matabike probably leading the charge there. Devon Achan in his first season. Mike Evans just doing Mike Evans things. That's not even a career year. It's just what he's, what he does.
Are you familiar with Myles Garrett's act this year?
Yeah, I am.
He's done a pretty good job. So, like, all these dudes, they've had big time, like, leading, like, football, like, highlights, Sports Center kind of season. It's been fantastic. So, look, I think when, like, I always grew up a Oilers fan, a Texans fan. What'd you grow up? You're not a Texans fan, right, Nick? Or
yeah, I mean, I'm from Houston area, so yeah.
And Cowboys fans. One of the cool things that I get to kind of revisit working in this chair is that, like, for a long time, Texans football sucked, right? They're fun to watch again, but it sucked. That I have all these other games I can watch with some serious interest, right? I can watch a Bills game. I can watch a Bucs game and, like, care and actually be invested in the game. I can watch a Cowboys game, even though I didn't grow up a Cowboys fan, because of the Aggie love. I can watch the Browns and be excited, right? Like, that's the cool part about it, that it's not just my hometown team. Now, I am not conflicted, but I said it to you yesterday, Nick. I want to see, like, Myles have a big game against the Texans, but I want to see the Texans win.
Yeah, I was about to say, hoping Myles' run isn't that long, but it'd be cool to see him have a good matchup and a good game. And it sucks we are missing that matchup with, who knows how many times they would have been facing each other, but Kenyon Green and Myles Garrett unfortunately don't get that. By the way, this list I found is from Agnox on Twitter. So
Agnox, good job, buddy. And I've said this before, so just bear with me. I grew up, you know who my favorite athlete of all time growing up was, right?
Shaquille O'Neal.
No. Try again.
You've told me. I know this.
Come on.
Is it baseball player?
No, it was a basketball player.
It was a basketball player.
I mean, Canseco was, like, when I was little.
That's who I was going to go with next. But.
Which basketball player do you think, not Draymond Green, which basketball player do you think as a kid, like, I idolized?
It's the other big guy that I can't think of. It's not Shaq, but it's
not Akeem.
No, who is it?
Charles Barkley.
I knew that. I just couldn't think of his name.
Yeah, my favorite player of all time. I love Charles. I mean, just the way he played the game, the whole act. Like, I love him. And in '94 and in '95, the Rockets, who won those championships, by the way, had to play Charles Barkley in the playoffs. And the Suns were up in year one. I think it was 2-0 in that series, and they were up 3-1 in 95. And I remember always saying this. I wanted Charles to have 33 points, 33 rebounds, but to lose by 33 points. And that's kind of how I feel about Miles. I would love to see him get a bunch of sacks, but for the Texans to win it and move on because, and by the way, the irony between those two franchises where that the Browns traded for Deshaun Watson, set the market with that dude, and the Texans were left for dead and expected to be dead for a while. And look, you can say what you want about them if they got a chance or not, but it's just cool to see in 1 year the quick turnaround. So that is something I have my eyes on as well. A couple of text messages coming in. Dave in the Pacific Northwest says, I don't know which horrible governor I wanted to be able to celebrate less yesterday, Whitmer, the Michigan one, or Inslee at Washington. Okay, getting into politics here. We got one from Johnny in Copper's Cove. Do you think if Washington would have executed better, this is for Olin, they would have at least made it closer? Johnny in Copper's Cove.
I think both of those were for Olin.
Yeah. OB's he gets some of those takes. The funny thing is, like, again, I find like A&M parallels in everything. I just do. Like, I just find the parallel in things. And I'm thinking to myself yesterday as I'm watching this game, I was like, God, why does this feel like an A&M game? And not because of the score, but like it's like they were just, if they just make this play, it feels completely different. And there were 2 or 3 times in that game, make a tackle, right? On that first Donovan Edwards touchdown. Like, just make a tackle, guys. It felt like that Miami game. Make a tackle. That game feels different. Make that pass on 4th and 7. I don't know if the receiver is supposed to cut out a little bit more. It looks like Michael Penix missed the throw, but
yeah, I was about to say it seemed like a couple of times in that game Michael Penix had someone wide open and couldn't hit him.
But you make that play, how does that game play out differently? Look, they lost by a bunch, right? It's considered a blowout, but they had a chance with 8:04 left in the game to tie the game, and they ended up getting trounced. So to me, that's what a lot of times what we have seen from A&M games is like, you just make that freaking play right there, guys. We're talking about a completely different, because then you play the game differently after that point, right? You make a tackle early on, and Michigan doesn't get, and I know they were able to shrink it and even have their chance and could have tied the game to start the second half. If the offensive lineman doesn't fall into Michael Penix, does he throw that interception? It doesn't matter. I think good teams make teams play bad, right? Like, so some mistakes that are uncharacteristic of your team, it's because a good team is playing at a level or at a pace or an energy that you're not comfortable with, which leads to mistakes. And that's exactly what happened there. So, all right, let's do this. Let's hit a break. When we come back here on TexAgs Radio, we'll talk to Jonathan Hutton and get his thoughts on the national championship game. But right now, we need caller number 1. We're going to give you a free car wash from Aggie Land Express Car Wash in South College Station off of William D. Fitch and Greens Prairie. They are Aggie owned and operated with the friendliest staff and a personal touch. They offer a monthly membership. We'll give the first caller a free car wash right now from Aggie Land Express in South College Station. 979-693-1150. My dude's got lighting, got a background. Love this. Let's go straight to the Brian Foley Law Hotline. Jonathan Hutton, host of Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow, 3 to 6 Eastern on Outkick.com. What's going on, Jonathan? How you been, buddy?
Nuño, great to be back on with you, man. Hope things are well. Not much of a background here, but I do have a little lighting set up. That's right.
Well, it seems legit, man. It looks like what's the name of that podcast I watch?
It's not bad.
It looks good, man. Hey, so let's talk about last night's game. You and I were texting back and forth during it. Just Michigan living up to what they do. Washington with some missed opportunities.
Yeah, and overall, I thought like it's a sloppy game, right? Like it was not what we expected or I expected from Washington. But then again, I mean, the Michigan defense, give them credit, and hey. Give the Michigan players throughout this entire season credit. I have hesitated to do that at times. I'm consciously trying to be self-aware about it because I'm judging them based on the coaching staff, specifically Harbaugh, what he did or didn't know. And McCarthy and company, while, I mean, could they have known? Sure. Do we have any way of just absolutely saying they've got to know? No, absolutely not. And, Harbaugh, there's no way to me that he wasn't involved in it. But, yeah, the players, for all they knew, they were doing everything that any other team would be doing at any level. So I think they, with all the distraction, even to start the season, prior to everything coming out in October, I thought they handled themselves very well, considering that the veteran presence showed out in this college football playoff.
Jonathan, do you think we'll look at Michigan differently in a few years, few months, like considering the scandal and the more information that comes out, and we'll see where Harbaugh ends up? Just, you think we'll look at it, or no, it'll be like USC in 2004?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to remember them as champions because while they may vacate wins a couple of years from now, I mean, that moment last night absolutely happened. It was allowed to happen last night. And I think we look back on this and remember this whole saga as the NCAA having an opportunity to step up, and instead, maybe for the last time, maybe one of the last times we saw the NCAA not do anything. We watched and heard Harbaugh and Michigan call their bluff. The Big Ten stepped in on a sportsmanship violation. The NCAA can't even type up the notice of allegations yet, and we need a commissioner of college football. I think this is what I'll look back on this as. Michigan wins the title. And no matter what happens years from now, because we watched, whether you care or you don't, about the whole Stallions saga. It's a football program, the coach, the university, who dared the governing body to quote unquote prove it, and the head coach is proclaiming innocence for the entire program on the podium. So, what do we learn here? It's power versus the appearance of power, and Harbaugh has it. So much so that if he was in on Stallions and sign stealing and that mission, he has so much power that no one threw him under the bus. Past, present, coaches that are, stood up and he didn't answer the door for, didn't answer the phone for. Stallions himself cost him his job. He didn't roll. Instead, Michigan is offering him a 10-year reported $125 million contract in front of him. And, oh, by the way, it doesn't change the fact that Ryan Day is still going to be going to next season on the hot seat. The Big Ten is going to tout a national champion and their runner-up, Sharon Moore, who, I mean, absolutely knew that Stallions and what he was up to. He's standing right next to him on the sideline. He's going to be the next Michigan head coach when Harbaugh heads to the NFL. And then there's the NCAA, more or less representing the figurehead, much like the royal family. I laugh at it because I know that's going to be the reaction. Because I think it's a lot like the way we look at sports gambling right now. And you mentioned Reggie Bush, $10,000. I mean, let's look around and see the cars some of these guys are pulling up to on campuses now. The NCAA, by the way, still cashed those checks last night. Every team that was represented in those conferences cashes those checks, regardless if Michigan or whoever is representing them.
How different does last night play out if it was Alabama and not Michigan? Does it feel the same?
For me, it does, yeah, but I don't think it plays out during the season the same way. Look at it from this perspective. The entire college football universe, except for the SEC or anyone associated with ESPN, ACC, they believe that ESPN and the SEC are in on it, that they're out to get them. There was a lot of not trusting things when Sankey was trying to get things done a few years back, or college football realignment or anything like that. I think the sentiment nationally would be way different than what we saw at Michigan, because I don't necessarily believe that Sankey would have stepped in and done anything the way Petitti did. And I don't think it was that harsh of a penalty. I mean, it was no different than what he received at the beginning of the season from Michigan, where he's coaching during the week. He's not coaching on game day. I mean, that's not affecting them early in the year. Turns out it didn't affect them late in the year. I'm not so sure Sankey would have done the same thing. He would have let things play out. And I think the public perception of this, Nuño, is that Michigan served their penalty. And I mean, I think the 30,000-foot view, the Big Ten stepped in, they suspended him. He accepted it eventually based on new evidence, and then they dropped their investigation. We're still waiting on the NCAA, but I mean, who talks about Kansas and Big Bill Self from 2018 or 2017? No one, because it's long forgotten, and we won't forget the championship last night.
What's next for Kalen DeBoer? That team's going to look different. They were heavy into the portal. I mean, somebody at some point is going to call him. We know that. Does he stay there? Do you well, I mean, there's no options right now. We'll see what happens with Michigan. But just how does that play out?
I think from DeBoer's perspective, first and foremost, he's going to get paid, right? Like he's making a little over $4 million. He had an extension last year, and his current contract that he extended last year runs through 2028 or 29. He's like 45th in coaching salary right now. That's good for 7th in the Pac-12. Top 25 highest paid coaches, they all make at least $6 million. He's going to earn more than that. They're already discussing the contract. He didn't want to really talk numbers during the season. It's time to get paid, man. And I think as far as what's next with the program, I mean, as long as he is the head coach, the Huskies can remain in the national championship picture. They've got plenty of talent that is out the door. But they have plenty of talent that's coming in. Transfer portal is real, and I think DeBoer is going to end up reaping the rewards of that with guys like Will Rogers, who's stepping in at quarterback.
What do you think about Alabama? Kevin Steele's retiring. The assistant coaches there, they change often. It's not like this is new. We heard DJ Durkin's a name that could potentially go there, or at least on social media.
Yeah.
What do you think Bama ends up doing?
I mean, I think it's going to be the guy that Kiffin already presumed was already calling plays in Javaris Robinson. Mm-hmm. I mean, the secondary coach has been the defensive coordinator before, and the players like him. I'm sitting there thinking, well, the perception is he's already he's primed for it. He's in-house, and I mean, I think his contract's up too. So I mean, you just elevate him to that position. However, there are plenty of coaches right now, like Zach Arnett, for instance, who makes sense, but Saban can go out and get whoever he wants, right? You can go out and make that happen. But I think from within, it's him or Charlie Strong is one of the guys behind the scenes there for him, 63 or 64 now probably. I think they stay in-house for this, and I think it's Robinson who is in the perfect spot to step into that role.
So Washington obviously dipped into the portal quite a bit. Ole Miss has dipped into the portal quite a bit. A&M this year having to go into the portal quite a bit. Do you think too much portal? I mean, not Colorado level of portal, but too much portal is a bad thing?
I go back and forth on this because on one hand, the transfer portal has really helped college basketball. I want to point that out because the tournament was as good as I've ever seen it last year, and I think we're seeing it play out right now in the regular season, the carryover. I hope it gets to that for the college football playoff when we expand to 12. The detriment is what's going to happen to teams 25 through 60 and those that are think they're competing, but they're not really competing for the 12-team playoff. And, they're going to lose players. They're already losing players. They were already being recruited prior to the transfer portal being as wide open as it is, quite frankly. I look around and think of it this way. As far as parity is concerned, we're as close to the best version of that we've seen. I don't think we're close like we are in college hoops, where you can get the 6th man at Arkansas and he can go to a Sun Belt school and take them to an unbeaten championship and make a run to the Sweet 16. Now that team can make a run to the Final Four. We saw it last year. I don't think we see that in college football, but I do think it elevates teams like Ole Miss. Ole Miss is already being mentioned for the college football playoff and a national championship contender based on the portal. And that's with them losing what they've done with Judkins, who goes to Ohio State. So, I mean, I like it. I like it from the no dog in the fight type perspective. I wouldn't like it if I'm a fan. I wouldn't like it if I'm a coach. I wouldn't like it if I'm a teammate, because it's ruining the bowl season as well. All the opt-outs, the timing of it, it's not conducive for everything you work for and strive for throughout the season. I miss the pageantry of bowl season. Yep, I didn't really the headline of bowl season outside of New Year's Day and beyond was the Pop-Tart mascot. That's ridiculous. Like, that got more coverage because it was social media relevant than the actual play on the field, and it used to be way different than that. Maybe they change the timing, maybe they don't. I know kids want to enroll, and I know coaches want them there for spring. They've got to do something about the opt-outs, because they're opting out to leave after helping their team achieve where they're going in December.
So I think it was Thursday where the Pat McAfee comments came out, where he called the high-ranking official there at ESPN a rat. Yeah. I went to your show immediately. You guys were talking about it. Were you surprised that McAfee was on the air yesterday?
I was, yeah. Well, I'm not surprised he was on the air. I thought if he was not going to be on ESPN, he would just go straight to YouTube, because he still owns that portion of his show. So he's got that leverage. I'm surprised that Aaron Rodgers is going to be on his show today, quite frankly. That's after ESPN has apologized. That's after McAfee, prior to this whole thing, went and apologized on Rodgers' behalf. Norby Williamson is an executive at ESPN, and they have Burt Magnus, his boss, the president of content in Indianapolis, at the Colts-Texan game, the night after McAfee calls Norby Williamson, who's been with ESPN for 40 years for the linear side of their product, and is part of their success, calls him a rat, says that he's out to undermine what they're doing, giving false information on ratings 12 hours before a press release was supposed to come out where McAfee's praising management, calls him a rat. And his boss is posing with a photo with McAfee the next night. And then yesterday, he's in Houston, where he opens up and doubles down again. I mean, that's the surprise to me, is that not that there is a underlying sentiment of I don't like so-and-so at ESPN. I think if you talk to people that work there, talent, hosts, there's going to be that feel that they're not supportive, upper management. What's different is how public he went with it, and then he went public again after ESPN said on Friday evening they were releasing the statement, they were going to handle things internally. That was all they were going to comment on it, and then Monday popped, McAfee's at it again. That's what surprised me. Not necessarily he was on air, but that he doubled down and still said he didn't take anything back from what he said about Norby Williamson. That's eye-opening, because now who's the next person to speak their mind about what's going on anywhere? And if you have the pool of McAfee, you can do that. But, I mean, it's not like he is one of the highest paid. He's not the highest paid. Stephen A. Smith's about to be. But look at what Aikman's making, and the whole crew as part of their football lineup. I mean, it's and the layoffs they just had. I'm fascinated to see the about face that ESPN is taking with this, because on one hand, Jimmy Kimmel's ripping Aaron Rodgers last night on his late night show. Rodgers is going on McAfee today. McAfee then rips one of his executives about leaking false ratings information, and he's not turning away from it. The story only goes away when McAfee stops talking about it, because no one else is talking about it except for him, and they're allowing him to.
Last thing for you. I got to thank the Titans. Although I didn't like the whole idea of them wearing the Oilers uniforms against the Texans. Okay. They came and brought it against Jacksonville, and they gave the Texans the AFC South.
I'm stunned that Here's what happened. Jacksonville didn't want it. I was at the game. It was that's a bad Titans team. I mean, you watched this team a couple times this year at least. Texans are legit. I love watching C.J. Stroud. I like what DeMeco Ryans has done. Young team that I feel like is a year ahead. Probably like the first Bengals playoff run. But Trevor Lawrence is supposed to be in this certain shelf, and he's just not there. He's playing with a bum shoulder. That certainly played a factor in everything. The entire team, though, just had this kind of malaise, going through the motions, win and in, and they lose and they know they're out. And it was just kind of a neutral feeling post-game. It was bizarre. Meanwhile, there's who knows what's going to happen with Vrabel and the Titans. And the Houston Texans are going back to the playoffs as the AFC South champs when all of us, I thought they were in rebuild mode, trading up to the number 2 pick, or number 3 pick after selecting C.J. Stroud at number 2. They get Will Anderson. And then all of a sudden, first-time head coach, here they are in the postseason. That's a great sign for a team that also has a lot of free agency money come March.
Jonathan, I might be the problem. I cover the Texans, and they went south. The Rockets went south. I come to Texas A&M, and our football team goes south. So, it's on me.
Hey, at least you're headed in the right direction. That the team here in Nashville's not. It's going. It's going south.
Yeah,
it's going south quickly. So we've got the Love You Blue. We've got the Columbia Blue. Right now, you've got the AFC South crown, and you've got the quarterback. That's for sure. Will Levis versus C.J. Stroud right now is not much of a fight.
I appreciate you, brother. We'll talk to you soon, all right?
Yeah, man. Always enjoy being on.
Thank you very much. Jonathan Hutton there. Outkick does great work. Hot Mics, a show that I catch all the time. You can catch it on social media, by the way. All right, we're going to hit a break here. We'll come back with some parting words here in the 9 o'clock hour, start off the 10 o'clock hour. It is TexAgs Radio. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. So I went back to listen to McAfee. So I didn't know he doubled down yesterday. I did not know that. Nick, are you familiar with that whole storyline?
No, I was talking with Cole back here about it. I had to get clarification on what exactly Aaron Rodgers said.
Oh, yeah. Aaron Rodgers basically said that Jimmy
Kimmel
Kimmel was, on the Epstein list.
Yeah. Life isn't real. We're talking about a quarterback, NFL quarterback, talking about a late night TV show host, talking about going to a, island that many bad things took place at. So just what a silly thing.
So is the list completely out?
No, I don't think so.
But some of it's out, right? But some of the names are redacted or something?
Yeah, I don't know. The real list will never come out. Let's be real.
Come on, just right after they, released all the information on the Kennedy assassination and UFOs. Have you been following that whole Miami thing?
No. Oh yeah.
The Miami alien giants?
Yeah, I saw that too. I
don't
buy it.
There's not. I have not seen one credible interview, but this all over social media. Even Trump was tweeting about it.
Then it has to be true.
He said, "What's the real story?" I do want to know what the real story is.
Yeah, I do too.
There's a police chief or somebody or a sheriff that was recorded saying we can't talk about it. Like, what? You can't talk about it? Why not?
Conspiracy theory radio.
We're not going to do that here yet. That'll be at 10:20. When we come back on TexAgs Radio, we're going to talk a little Aggie basketball. Justin Lanham joining us here. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, we're back. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Love this. I always comment on people's like backgrounds, right? Like Mark French always got the awesome office. He just had Jonathan Hutton on. I see the perfectly placed cushion in the background for Justin Lanham as we're about to join him here on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. Gig 'em Aggies in the background. Justin, what's up, buddy?
What is up? Can I be honest with you? I have to place that Aggie pillow there every time. So I'm just going to be honest and upfront with you. We have normally a different pillow there, but I just feel like we got to get in the spirit. So,
but it's perfect. It fits. It looks like it could be there all the time, but it looks great on camera.
Yeah, I just felt a little guilty. I feel like I needed to be honest there. So,
well, it's all good. All right, so we got a lot to get into, and we're allowed to be critical. We're allowed to be optimistic. We're allowed to, when it comes to Aggie hoops. So right now, where are you with them? And before you answer that, let me just start off with this. I keep saying I'm going to give them grace because they've proven to deserve that grace because for some reason, Buzz will go back to the lab, mix up some ingredients, and they'll be rolling at some point. They've done that the last few years, right? And at one point when they lost 8 games in a row, we thought they may not win another game. Then they make on that huge run, go to the NIT final. So with that being your lead-in, where are you with Aggie hoops right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think with you saying some of that, put a positive spin in my head. So, I feel like we've seen this team. Feel like we feel like we've seen this team not have it figured out, and then they figure it out, kind of like you just said. And so, right now, looking at this team, you're like, oof. At this point in the season, we feel like we don't have some things in place that maybe we need to. We feel like we're struggling in some areas, and that's kind of how I feel right now. But the positive side that I will say is I think eventually at some point these shots are going to start to fall for us. I really do. To me, I don't think this coaching staff is crazy. They're still allowing these players to shoot these threes, a high amount of threes. I think we're like fifth in the SEC in the amount of threes that we've taken. And so I feel like they see something in practice. I don't think that if you see something in practice, you're going to continue to allow players to do something that you're just not good at. I do think we're going to start to eventually see some of these threes fall. We're shooting 26.6% from three right now, I believe is what I saw. And we're the lowest in the SEC right now. Eventually I really do think that that's something that's going to help us turn this thing around. Because look, if you hit, we took 26, 28 threes last game. If you hit 3 or 4 of those and even just get your percentage up to 25% for the game or whatever it is, you're in that game, And so I just feel like we've got to see some of these threes fall. And as we do, I think it'll give us a little confidence moving forward.
See, I don't. Like, I hate the threes. I like, if you're the Golden State Warriors and you can hit threes, hit threes. But I go back to the Penn State game in the NCAA tournament. When it's not working, and that's not, like, what is A&M's basketball identity? Hardworking, rebounding, tough defense.
Yep.
Threes is probably the last thing I think about. They can hit can hit free throws. So, like, I don't believe, and this is not a shot at Buzz by any stretch. Just in general, if it's not working, you got to find something else. And that's why I give Buzz grace, because I feel like in the last couple years, that's what we've seen him do. All right, this isn't working, so let's go here and fix it.
Yeah, I will say this. I don't feel like we make teams guard us, if that makes sense. So you see some of these other teams get downhill. You see some of these other teams get a post feed, get a post touch inside, and then they fan it to the backside. I don't even feel like we're doing that. A lot of times we're coming down and it's a one pass. We don't even have, as a coach, you like to see multiple ball reversals because that means that you're making the defense work. And right now, a lot of times I feel like we're getting a one pass shot. We're not getting it to multiple sides of the floor. And I feel like whenever you're not doing that, you're not making the defense work. So to your point, I agree with you. The only thing that I would say to kind of negate that and combat that is I don't know necessarily that we have a post player that we feel confident in to get him a post touch and he play with his back to the basket 90% of the game. And so to get the ball inside. But to also combat that, some of these guards have got to find a way to get downhill and get to the basket. And I'm with you. If we're not shooting the three well, we've got to find other ways to score the ball. I think I said it one of the last times I was on. We've got to get to the free throw line more. you got to try to, get to the free throw line and find your shot. But the only thing that worries me is I don't know that we have a post player that's just a back to the basket, score from inside kind of guy. Henry maybe can be that at times, and some of these, but I just don't feel like consistently that we're going to see that.
So something that I was talking to a buddy of mine about that I totally agree. I think part of the issue this year is the lack of easy buckets. And those easy buckets, you had an extreme scorer in Quentin Jackson a couple years ago, right? Last year, Dexter Dennis could do that and also hit some threes. Not that he was a scorer per se. I think I was expecting Jace Carter to be able to do a little bit more of that, expecting Eli Lawrence to be able to do a little bit more of that. And, Solo being out of the lineup hasn't helped as well. Do you think the lack of easy buckets from the wings has been a problem?
Yeah, I think I tweeted this out last game. And what's funny is I don't think that that's going to be true moving forward for this Auburn game. But for the last game, I wanted to see us speed the game up a little bit and get some transition buckets. I think that that's maybe kind of what you're talking about as well, is just kind of getting out running, getting some easy buckets. I just don't ever feel like offensively right now, and maybe that's just because I'm a diehard fan and I love the Aggies, so maybe I'm being pessimistic here, but I just don't feel like we do get a ton of easy buckets. And so how do you change that? Get out and run, go get some easy before the defense gets set up, attack, especially when the three's not falling. Let's get to the basket. And so I agree. I don't feel like we're getting as many of those easy buckets as we have in the past.
So the first half of the LSU game, I didn't think they were going to lose. I was like, all right, it's going to be one of these games that they'll grind it out and win. In the second half, they got their butts kicked. What was the biggest difference in the second half?
There was a point. That's a good question. There was a point in the second half where, I'll be honest, I kind of felt a little helpless and like hopeless. Like I felt like we'd kind of lost hope a little bit, at least for that game. I just felt like we were jacking threes again, just coming down and shooting. There was a possession. I don't know if you remember or saw it, but there was a possession where I believe it was Boots came down and we had just got a turnover. And instead of going and making a pass ahead, he takes a three in transition. And we have a guy, I don't know who it was, it may have been Anderson, was wide open underneath the basket. And we just passed it up and shot the three. And it was just, to me, that was just so disheartening to see. I don't care if it's a 12-point game, a 10-point, whatever it is, let's get the easy bucket. Because I think there was 3 or 4 minutes left in the game and we took a shot like that. And so in the second half, I felt like that. We were continuing to take bad shots. And Buzz said it in his press conference. The energy, it just didn't feel like it was there. And you can say students are still out on break or whatever excuse you want to make. You got to show up to an SEC basketball game. I don't care if it's December 26th, 25th, whatever it is, you got to show up. And so I just didn't feel like the energy was there. Defensively, I will say this, LSU, if you go back and look, they really took advantage of the paint. I think it was 34, 36 points that they scored in the paint. And one thing that I noticed that they were doing is we kind of run our little 3/4 court trap, not necessarily trapping as much as we have, but kind of that to kind of drain the clock a little bit. And they were able to reverse the ball and get the ball inside. And a lot of the times we put Wade at the back of that, whether we're sinking back into a man defense or to our matchup. And basically the Baker kid and some of the bigger kids had an easy shot at the rim because Wade ended up having to guard there at the rim. And so I thought LSU did a really good job of attacking the paint and scoring some easy buckets inside.
Justin, who has to be better? The easy answer is you want to get Boots back to being Boots, and that could be health and rhythm and whatnot. But who else has got to be better?
Yeah, let's just be honest. The if you want to call them the big three, Boots, Wade, and Coleman, those are the three guys that you're going to consistently, if this team wants to have success this year, I think those three guys are going to have to show up every game. And it's not, I don't want to rely on Wade Taylor for 35 points and, every game or anything like that. I think it can be consistently Wade, Boots, and Henry. I think those guys are the three that you just have to expect. Those are your leaders. Those are your guys that have ton of experience. And so I think those are the three guys that you got to kind of, at the end of the day, kind of hang your hat on and say, hey, you three got to get this thing done for us.
Justin Lanham there on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. Good people can have a bad day. Call Brian Foley at 936-596-0407, serving Houston, Woodlands, Conroe, and the Brazos Valley. All right, Buzz talked yesterday at practice about how they didn't spend so much time on Auburn. Is there something good about that you can just go play your brand of basketball, get back to your basics, your fundamentals?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like I've always, especially whenever I was coaching, I felt like sometimes coaches spend a little bit too much on the other team and not as much time self-diagnosing. Hey, what do we need to fix? What's wrong with us? Or the opposite of that, what's really good, and let's continue to do that. And sometimes I think teams can overcoach a little bit, and coaches can overcoach. But the good thing is hey, let's get back. Let's self-diagnose what went wrong against LSU. I think Buzz, the number one thing that he said, and I think that I think he took responsibility for it too, is he just didn't feel like the guys played with a ton of energy. And so what does that mean? Are they practicing too much, or what? There's tons of different things that you could look at. Why didn't we show up to play? What's the matter? It's an opening SEC game. And so I think that's the number one thing. So I think that's a good thing, is just self-diagnosing, looking at, hey, what do we need to do right now to get better? Forget about what we're about to see on Tuesday night. Let's get better, with us. And so I think that's the best thing there.
Talking to Justin Lanham here on TexAgs Radio, just teams that you coached in the past, teams that you played on, like why? You kind of mentioned it there, but I just find it unfathomable for a team to not be ready to go, especially a team that, and it's not like they picked to not be ready to go, right? They probably thought they were ready to go. But a team that's what they hang their hat on is, we're going to outwork you. We're going to outbeat you to every ball. We're going to do this, this, and this. They didn't do that. And I think compile that, Justin, with the fact that they really haven't looked that good against good teams. Let's be honest. Like Houston, They got hot. Iowa State, they got hot. But against really good teams, they haven't looked good.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, you've probably seen it, and people say it all the time. A good team can be a coach-led team, but a great team can be a player-led team. And so, coaches can motivate all they want, but when those players motivate each other, that's whenever you're going to see guys show up to play. I don't see when guys are taking bad shots. I don't see when guys are doing things that, maybe not bringing energy. I don't necessarily see somebody physically on the court doing something to get these guys going. Maybe I'm missing it. Maybe I'm wrong there, but I just don't see anybody that's kind of that vocal leader.
Yep.
I think I've heard you talk that you like Draymond, and, Draymond's got his own issues right now or whatever, but he is a guy that's going to keep people in check, right? A Patrick Beverly or somebody like that's going to kind of get guys going. I just don't think that we have that. I think Solomon can be that a little bit. He's not necessarily going to get on to somebody, but he's going to bring that energy. And what did we miss against LSU? Solomon wasn't out there. Maybe that's Solomon. Maybe that's a guy that is that for them. So I guess my point is this leadership, these seniors are just these guys that have a ton of experience. They've got to bring that to the table. They got to keep guys accountable. They got to keep guys in check. Again, coach-led team can be good, but a player-led team is going to be great.
Talking to Justin Lanham here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. So what do you think as a group they're trying to figure out about themselves? Because and that's a hard question to ask, considering this is a veteran team that came back missing some pieces, but we're beyond that. At this point, you know who you are, but they still don't know. I mean, they know what they can be. They just don't know who they are.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, say what you want about defensively, which, by the way, randomly, I was looking up some of these stats, and I did not realize I don't think we're that great of a defensive rebounding team. As much as we focus offensively on the boards, I don't really necessarily think we're a great defensive rebounding team. I do, I saw defensive rebounds per game. We're kind of at the bottom of the SEC. Part of that might be the slow play that we play. And so, you can say that or whatever, but that's something that identity wise, I think defensively, you can say that we're okay. Offensively, I just don't think we know where our scoring is going to come from. And to be honest, that's something that I've been putting some stuff on the players. I put it on the staff to figure out, like, hey, where's this scoring going to come from? Are we putting guys in right situations to be successful? Because like you said, I don't think shooting 28 threes a game when you're shooting 26% from the three is the recipe for success. I think at some point you got to say, okay, this is not working. We got to figure something else out. And hey, that's okay. If you're going to, I would rather figure that out game one of SEC play than keep trying to do this over and over and get into 8 games of SEC and we're 2-6 and say, we got to change now. Like, let's self-diagnose. Like you said, some of these big games, we haven't really, as much as people want to say we were close in that U of H game, it was probably a lot further stretched than what it ended up being, if that makes sense. So
it took a heroic effort.
Say that again.
It took a heroic effort, right? Like Wade had to basically be Superman.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I've told you multiple times. I don't want to have to rely on that because I just don't think that that's how we're going to win a bunch of games. And so our offensive identity, we've got to figure it out. And right now we don't have one. You watch some of these other teams and you can see what they are trying to do. You can see like the old Bill Self teams, they were trying to get the high-low. You watch a Jay Wright coach team and you know what they're going to do. They come to 2 every time. And they Calipari back in the day, the dribble drive motion, all of the things that these coaches, these really good coaches that have an identity, I just don't feel like we have an identity offensively right now.
Talking to Justin Lanham. Hey, Justin, what about tonight, Auburn? Again, the schedule, we knew it was going to be tough, but when you lose to LSU, it makes it even that more difficult to kind of navigate. What is the key for A&M to get something out of this game tonight?
Yeah, I don't think you want to see Auburn after you come off a loss to LSU, a game that you're supposed to win, but it is what it is. And so Auburn is really good. I've watched a little bit of them playing. They play fast. They score a lot of points, kind of totally different than us. And they've got one of the preseason SEC first-team players of the year, Janai Broom, a big forward for them, 6'10" kid, can score inside. I'll be honest, I think he's going to kind of be the X factor for them. He's going to be the one that gets them going. They have a couple other guys that can go as well, but they're going to get up and down the floor, and they're going to, to my point, I think I told you on social media, I tweeted out that I felt like last game we should have sped it up. I think this game, it's got to be, slow it down. We got to match their energy inside the jungle. That place is going to be going tonight. I mean, they've got a great fan base. They play really well there. I think last year we broke their record by beating them at Auburn. I think they had a home record there in conference or something like that. And I remember we broke that. So we got to match their energy though, because they're going to bring it at home for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking at what they have ahead, and Auburn tonight, hosting Kentucky, the number 6 team in the country. Then they go to Arkansas. Then back at LSU. But, I mean, just that 2-game stretch right there. Auburn, Kentucky, considering you lost to LSU. I hate to say this, but you got to split, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Can I tell you a random stat that I saw about Kentucky? They have 4 guys that shoot over 35% from 3, okay? They have 4 guys on their team right now, Kentucky does, that shoots over 35%, and they have taken less 3-point attempts than we have. I found that just that was mind-blowing to see. And maybe the stats have been updated and maybe but that's what I saw, and that just blew my mind to see that, because it's like you've got 4, one of them, Reed Shepherd, is shooting over 50%. So you've got these, and 2 of them are 40-something%, and then you got another kid shooting 36%. I don't know what the highest 3-point percentage player on our team is, but it's not close to those. I can tell you that. And so it was just kind of astonishing to see that they took less attempts than we have from beyond the arc.
Yeah, well, they got to make something out of these games, man, because if you fall in an 0-3 hole, considering losing to LSU, and look, going to Arkansas, I don't care if they've had some issues, that's a tough game every year.
Yeah, going into that arena, kind of the same thing as going into Auburn. That's a tough place to play. I know that they kind of had their hiccup against Auburn this past weekend, but again, let's not forget they beat Duke, and so they're capable of beating quality teams. So this is not going to be an easy slate, and we've kind of put ourselves already behind the 8 ball, and so we got to, like you said, at least split these next 2 games.
Justin, appreciate you, brother. Thanks so much.
Thanks, David.
Take care, man. Justin Lanham there on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. We'll hit a break. We'll do an open segment, go through some SEC notes, and then we'll talk to Dr. John Thornton, who's on the road with that Aggie basketball team. Right now we're talking, it's weird to talk about Fargo's without OB being here. I don't know. It's like you can't go to dinner with your friend's wife, right? You can't do I know that's a terrible comparison, but that's what it feels like when I talk about Fargo's without OB here, because that's his place, our place. It's just weird. But we do know this. Today's Tuesday, which means OB's not here around me in the office right now. He's probably getting rib tips as we speak, because that's what they have on Tuesdays. They are served on Tuesdays and Saturdays, and you know the slogan, once they're gone, they are gone. That's what they have on Tuesdays. Tomorrow they'll have chopped beef on a baked potato. Also have beef ribs on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Thursdays, they've got pork chops, mac and cheese. I love the mac and the cheese. They've got green beans. They got red potatoes. Friday, fish, corn, coleslaw, hush puppies. He calls them the 4 C's. Saturdays, they've got beef ribs, and you want to check them out. They also have pork ribs on those days as well. They've been a part of this community for over 22 years. You name it, they'll take care of you. Weddings, funerals, office parties, they got you. 1701 South Texas Avenue in Bryan, without a doubt, the best barbecue in town. That's their trademark, because it's true. It's Fargo's. Go check them out. We will do a little bit more basketball here with Dr. John Thornton in a few minutes. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Appreciate everybody listening in. Got this text that came in earlier. I find it strange that this is from an 817 area code as this text is loading up. I find it strange that before Radford came back, our team was hitting on all cylinders. I wouldn't say that. Wouldn't say that at all. Now that he's back, we seem to be completely out of balance. Maybe it's no. I think they've been out of balance for a while. I mean, you can look at their schedule and just see how they've played. I mean, there were games without him that they were able to do all right in, but they haven't looked like themselves. And also some of the games he didn't play in were the Houston Christian games, like the games that you didn't need to have him out there. So no, I would not say that at all. Here's my thing. They take too many threes. Everybody is focusing in on Wade Taylor. And when he's got to take the ball, when they basically take the ball out of his hands, nobody else is stepping up. Boots is trying to round back into form. His injury set him back a little bit. And they're not getting easy buckets. When Henry Coleman was balling out earlier in the year, they were getting some easy buckets in the paint. They're not getting those easy buckets in the paint. They're not getting the easy buckets on the wings, right? And that can be frustrating. And that's why I keep going back like, look, I'm very concerned about how the season's going to play out because it does not feel like it's going to play out the way we expected it to before the season started, which is a total – I should have seen it coming, right, the way things have gone recently. But I do think they're going to figure things out because they always figure things out. They've done it the last couple of years.
Yeah, David, I was about to say, couldn't you go back the past 2 seasons and pick up a moment in the schedule and say, we were feeling exactly how we are now at this point, and then, make it to the tournament one year, should have been in the tournament the year before.
Yes.
So, I mean, I get what you're saying.
But here's my concern with that. My concern with that is that we didn't expect that to be the case this year because they were returning such a veteran team. That Boots decided to come back for another year. That Wade Taylor was your SEC preseason player of the year, right? You expected to have Henry and Julius Marble. Like there were all these expectations because of what you had coming back. Oh, and then you look how good he's done in the portal. Buzz got Q in the portal a couple years ago. He got Dexter Dennis last year, right? Like, all right, we got Eli Lawrence and Jace Carter, and there's others, right? And it just hasn't turned out to be what we expected it to be, right? I think Solo not being in the lineup the other night certainly hurt them. Manny Obaski at times has flashed some greatness, right? There's others. And they just haven't done what we expected them to do. And I think that's my problem with it is while I expect them to be able to fix it, I just wish we didn't have to fix it. All teams, not all, but a lot of teams that are at this level have some hiccups throughout the season. I just thought, well, this team's got the ability to be Sweet 16 or Elite 8 kind of team. And they're just not. And that is a problem. That is a huge problem for a team that we expected to be competing for not only the conference championship, but to also have a really nice non-conference, set you up great to be a top 5 seed. Right now, that feels a long ways away. You just got to worry about Auburn. I do love what Buzz is doing, though. Let's work on us. Working on us doesn't mean that they beat Auburn tonight. That's going to be a hard thing to do regardless. But fixing yourself, and then, of course, tinkering a little bit with what Auburn does will go a long way. Auburn's good. A&M's had some success against them throughout the years, but they are really good. If you go on the road and get this one, it doesn't erase LSU, just makes it feel a lot better because you still got Kentucky to go. Split these next 2, take care of business for a while, then you can start breathing again. But I'm looking at this schedule. You're not going to start breathing again for a while. I mean,
yeah, it's very scary to look at that and looking at the next 3 to 4 game. Mark French likes to take it in quads, so I guess the next 4, a little scary.
Yeah, scary.
To say the least.
Because, I mean, at Auburn, at Arkansas with Kentucky in the middle here at Reed this Saturday, then at LSU, a team that just beat you on your home court, and a team that you should be better than, but they clowned you. Missouri, we know they're a good program. Ole Miss, it ain't easy, guys. So going into it, get back to your identity, start getting some easier buckets, and somebody, please, shoot well. Somebody. And then, this is not to, but they have fallen short of expectations so far. Plenty of time to get back and do what they normally do. Plenty of time to do that. All right, let's hit a break here. When we come back on TexAgs Radio, Dr. John Thornton is going to join us. I believe he's already at Auburn. I think he was flying with them yesterday, so we'll talk to him, get some thoughts from Dr. John. Right now, a moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet. They are on Highway 21 in Caldwell and online at caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. So we bought a vehicle from there about a year and some change ago, 15 months ago, something like that. Maybe 15 months ago. Doesn't matter the exact time, but we went through the whole process. We were told how good they were. We knew they were good. And then we lived it, and we saw it, and it was a very easy experience for us. Got a great trade-in value, got the exact vehicle that we needed for our family, and it was awesome. It was a fantastic experience for us because we got the right price, the right deal, and the right customer service, and that's what you get when you go to Caldwell Country Chevrolet. It's about a 15-minute drive, Brian and Caldwell. It's a short conversation away, guys. We're talking about, talk about the Texans, talk about the Cowboys, talk about the Aggies, and boom, you're there. 15 minutes, short conversation away. The edge of Bryan to the very beginnings of Caldwell, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the good people there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. Still trying to make sense of Aggie basketball so far. Yeah, there's time. Only one conference game in, but still, it's a tough one. It's TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the Brian Foley Law Hotline. We are joined by Texas A&M color commentator, former player, coach, you name it, Dr. John Thornton, joining us here on the program. Dr. John, how you been, sir?
How you doing this morning?
I'm well. How's the weather out there?
Well, it was kind of interesting. We got in late last night, and it's beautiful, but it's overcast. It's rained off and on, and the power went off in the hotel for about 3 hours. So not your typical travel plan.
You get in there late. You get no electricity. Goodness gracious. Why? Thank you so much for making some time for us. So help me make sense of what's that? What's that? I'm sorry?
No, let's go ahead. I just broke up there for a second.
Help me make sense of this year because, there's a team that I expected them to be. And I still expect them to find that team, even though the record may not be what I expected it to be. And then there's the production we're seeing on the floor. What's going on in your eyes this year?
Well, I'm with you. I extremely excited about what pieces we had coming back and what pieces we've added to it. And, witness the put together as preseason practice started. And then, obviously knowing the kind of schedule we were going to have and who we were going to play, we were going to be battle tested. And I just really loved the togetherness. I loved the nastiness in a good way, the toughness. And I just saw it kind of coming together. But then this last weekend was just something that's caught me completely off guard. And I'm like you. If you, it's easy to take it really, really hard. But as far as looking around the country and seeing other people and getting starts or kind of sputtering out of the gate in conference play, it kind of happens from time to time. It just kind of surprised me, though.
Dr. John here on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. So shot selection has definitely been an issue for me. I know efficiently, Buzz was talking about they're one of the better efficient offenses out there. That being said, they don't hit a lot of threes, and they take a lot of threes, Dr. John.
Yeah, and here's what I'd say. I'm going to give LSU credit. One thing I will say, the parity in the league, you see how people have taken different routes to get here. Some have played soft schedules, some have played tougher schedules. But you top to bottom, for the most part, you go out and you're not hitting on all cylinders, you could get taken down. And give LSU credit. Defensively, I thought they were really, really good. And nights that you shoot it, hey, you're the greatest coach in the world, man. You make sure everything you do offensively is just beautiful, right? But when you have nights which happen, we've had 2 nights in a row where we just haven't had the ability to knock down shots in a consistent manner and really not hit shots in big times in the game. And so that's been something that's really hurt us. And what I would also say, I also add to that, when you don't shoot it, you better be doing everything else right. And Buzz has got this recipe and formula that's worked for him. His teams are predicated on checking the boxes in the different categories, and we didn't rebound like ourselves. And that, I don't know whether it was just a little bit of LSU catch us off guard in the second half, but we just didn't come back with that punch I thought we were capable of.
How much of the issue is that we're not sneaking up on teams anymore? I don't think anybody expected A&M to win 15 conference games last year and Wade Taylor take the huge step that he did. People know who Wade is now. People know Boots. People know Texas A&M.
I think that's a great, great point. And, people will say, well, I'll just discount that. I mean, what have they done? Well, you won every conference home game. Who does that? You finish with the way they finished in conference play, beating ranked teams. So I agree with you, and I felt this early on in non-conference, whether it was FAU or whether it was Penn State or whether it was Virginia or whether it was Iowa State. We were kind of the hunted. I mean, we're freshly minted into the top 15, 13 or whatever it was. So we were a resume builder for others, and especially early in the season. And I think we handled that really, really well. And that's a little difference. Now we're going into a place right now where they're undefeated. They're very, very good. We're not the hunted anymore. I mean, we're hunting because this is going to be a tough match tonight.
Well, yeah, and I want to get into tonight, but just I keep saying this, and I want you, who are closer to the program than anybody, to kind of back me up on this. even though I'm worried and I'm extremely concerned because of what the schedule looks like. I feel like Buzz always does mix the right ingredients at some point, and he'll go back to the lab and figure out this team.
No, I'm in total agreement with you, and that's all coaches try to do that. And is Buzz pristine in what he does and selections and the moving parts that he puts together? No, nobody is, but he is as good as I've been around. And ego out the window. It's not my way or the highway. He will absolutely tweak, massage, adjust. Everything from what they do offensively, defensively on a day-to-day night as far as prepping for an opponent, but in the big picture type thing. And so, yes, was it disappointing? No, but they're back to the drawing board right now and trying to do things that are, first of all, give them opportunities to score and have a better chance at scoring, and two, they're going to tweak defensively what they do. But he's as good as there is taking stock where you are, mixing and matching and coming up with solutions.
So last year when A&M played Auburn, I believe that Broom, the big man, he had a pretty good game, but A&M took care of business. How important is it for them to kind of neutralize what he does against Auburn?
No, it's really paramount. They've got the 1-2 punch with the guard play and transition, which they're really, really good. They'll play fast. But what they don't do is they don't get so fast that that's all they do. And they'll involve their bigs in half-court offense in a big way, and it's premeditated on what they do. They're going to try to beat you down the floor. They'll shoot early, but once the transitions stop, they'll go to work and take advantage of their size and the ability for those guys to create havoc because they can step out, they can score in the paint, obviously, and they're big. So this is one of his better teams. I'm not going to say elite. They're elite athletically. They always are. But they're going to be elite chemistry-wise, which I'm not so sure they've had that. We've had their number for a number of years, but I think this is his best team, top to bottom, chemistry team, 1-2 punch of guard play and bigs.
Well, one thing that I like that I'm hearing from Buzz is it's not necessarily about Auburn. It's about what A&M does, and that's why they're kind of looking at in the mirror and like, hey, what can we do and how that could affect Auburn?
No, that's exactly the way he looks at it. And all coaches, they scout like crazy, you know that. And they do. They'll be ready for, the nuances of what this team does defensively and offensively. They'll be ready for that. But it is more about us than it is about them. And not discounting how good they are, but it's more about what we have to do to be us or to be successful. And, it starts and stops with making people uncomfortable in the half-court setting. Make sure that we just crush the glass, which we have to do because we have not shot it well. We got to get second, third shots at it, but we got to limit you to as few offensive rebounds as we can. But that's on us, and that's what we have to do. And I think that was a little bit absent against LSU.
Now, one of the issues with being such a good rebounding team or offensive rebounding team means you're missing a bunch of shots. So hopefully they figure out that part of it. But they do need to get back to rebounding, right?
No, that is it. And, I don't care how many shots you make or miss. If you lead the nation in offensive rebounding and you've done that consistently through the year, I mean, you've got something going for you. And there's more opportunities because you're missing a lot. But at the same time, they're not giving them to you. People are trying to limit your second and third shots, and we can go get it. And that's something that they've worked on. They've prided themselves on. You cannot take days off. It's work. It's physical. It's hard. And over the course of the season, you just can't allow yourself to get into this thing. Well, it'll just happen. No, it is something you have to be absolutely fierce in what you're trying to accomplish.
Dr. John Thornton with us here on TexAgs Radio. Dr. John, when's the last time you saw A&M basketball play a game where, and not against some of the lesser opponents, but against a solid opponent where they look like the A&M team we expected them to be? Is there a game that comes to mind? You're like, there we go. That's something we can point at.
Oh, you talking about this year?
Yeah, this year.
This year, or are you talking about? Yeah, I was. This is, and again, we were all a little taken back what happened, this past weekend. But you can't take it out of context. This is the same team that has fought through, Henry missing games, Solo missing games, Tyrese missing games, and then things going on behind the scenes with just individual sickness, all that kind of stuff. But this is the same team that battled an Iowa State team that was absolutely smelling blood in a neutral court, down 21, and come back and win. That's not a bad team you did that to. To battle Houston down there, and more or less a home court advantage, you're playing in Houston against one of the toughest defensive teams in the country, one of the most physical teams in the country, to be 2 free throws away from sending it to overtime. So those are two. Iowa State was a win. Houston was lost, but that's what that team is capable of doing as far as competing at a high level against a quality opponent.
Talking to Dr. John Thornton here on TexAgs Radio. So let's wrap up with this. We got Auburn coming up, and it doesn't get easier after that. You got Kentucky, and then you got to go on the road to Arkansas. Look, I'd love for them to split these next two, take 2 or 3, but just tell us a little bit about this near future, what they have to do considering, falling behind the 8 ball, especially after losing to LSU.
Yeah, I think they got to get back to what they are. And that's it. Like I said, a tough, nasty, competitive team that doesn't take no for an answer and make plays, whatever it takes to be in games, whether it's, shooting, obviously. I want the ball to go in. I want to make all free throws. We were a great free throw shooting. We can be a good free throw shooting team. But you can't leave points on the table there. We've got to attack the rim. We've got to go to the line. We've got to make shots that aren't, shots that don't always have to be threes. And we can play inside out. So I want to see that kind of mentality. I want to see that toughness, and I want it to be back to where the competitive nature that I know this team's all about. And what's going to help us too, I think this is going to be an unbelievable atmosphere of playing tonight. It's going to, we've had their number. They're going to show up. They're undefeated at home. Our guys like competition, and they're going to get out here and battle. I'd like to see our gym absolutely packed to the rafters like this one's going to be when we play Kentucky. And let's take these 2 games one at a time, and let's go.
Dr. John, thanks so much for your time. Bring us back a win, all right?
All right. You always enjoy it. Talk to you later.
See you, man. Dr. John there on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. We'll hit a break. We'll get into some final thoughts here as we prepare for tomorrow's show, and a lot of stuff to get into still. Right now, though, a moment for the Association of Former Students. As the year came to a close and the new year is here, the Association of Former Students wants to thank you to the Aggie Network for all the generous support throughout the year. 2023 was a great year. We hope 2024 can also be a great year and exceed those expectations. They're an independent 501c3 nonprofit organization supporting A&M and Texas Aggies everywhere, and they would not be able to help musters across the world host ring days throughout the year, support A&M clubs, or provide scholarships and assistance to students in need without your support. In this season of giving, would you help the Aggie Network spread some holiday cheer by considering making a gift to the Association of Former Students? What you got to do is renew your Century Club membership if you haven't done so already. You can become a first-time member or give the gift of membership to another Aggie. The association works year-round to help Aggies be there that cannot do it alone. What you need to do is visit tx.ag/cheer23. Again, that is tx.ag/cheer23. It's the Association of Former Students. About an hour ago, Elijah Alston opened up his recruitment back again. He's one of the guys that transferred, defensive lineman. He says his recruitment is back open. He tweeted that earlier today. Bronny's got some thoughts on it on the boards if you want to check it out. But, when you get a bunch of dudes to commit and you want a path to play, it can be a little bit busy, right? And so that looks like to be going in a different direction now. That is some news that opened up here, I don't know, somewhere in the 9 o'clock hour. I do want to go around the SEC because I found this interesting. Nick, did you know that Paul Feinbaum had a running feud with Ric Flair? Are you aware of that?
Like in the past, or is this
right
recent?
now?
Right now.
As of yesterday in the last week or so, yeah.
Okay. Well, is it? Anyways, enlighten me. No, I didn't know this was going on.
So yesterday, Ric Flair tweeted, "Ha ha 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 ha! Forever doubting Jim Harbaugh. According to you, the NFL would never take him either. I want your job on SEC Network. Dumb A.S.
Yikes.
They've been going after each other for a while. I actually saw something not too long ago. I guess Paul took exception with him from being a Georgia fan initially and then changing his allegiance to Michigan. And by the way, at some point he was an Astros fan, and I know he's gone other places as well. And he just thought that was uncool. So he went after him, and then they've gone after each other a couple different times since then. And apparently Feinbaum will have to retort or respond later on tonight.
Man, we got to watch the McAfee show and Paul Feinbaum. Just too much host drama.
Media
when
drama.
When are you
going
to get into a fight with
I'm
somebody?
Not.
Well, you've had your fair share.
When? I've had one.
SEC Mike, yeah.
2 years ago.
Yeah. Y'all are buddies now.
Have you not noticed that I don't destroy people anymore? I'm very nice.
Yeah.
When's the last time I was mean? Honestly.
You haven't been.
See? I'm trying to be nice. Yeah. I'm not trying. It's who I am. I'm not somebody to mess with, especially on the basketball court, but I'm not going to be mean.
Yeah.
Here's another one for you. Ohio State lands a commitment from Quinshon Judkins. That happened last night during the national championship game. The number 3 overall player, according to On3, their portal rankings. Last year, 15 touchdowns, 1,158 yards rushing, 4.3 yards per carry. Obviously, he had an amazing freshman year as well. But he joins Ohio State, and a big loss for Ole Miss. They're still loaded, but that is a big loss. But it makes you wonder how much the college football world is going to start going the route of the NFL, where maybe not valuing running backs the way they used to. Here's one. Former Tennessee safety Tamarian McDonald flipping his transfer commitment from Ole Miss to Louisville. So again, Ole Miss taking a punch in the face. So initially McDonald said he was going to go to Ole Miss. That was a couple weeks back, but something has happened since then. This will be his 4th season. Last year, 40 tackles and a few pass deflections. This is a good name, Trill Carter. Are you familiar with the name Trill Carter, Nick?
I'm not.
Well, he's a Texas defensive lineman. I don't think he played much this year. He entered the portal on the 5th, and he's going now to Auburn. A couple years back, he played for Minnesota, played 32 games, 24 starts there. But now he goes to Texas, didn't work out for him. He's heading out to Auburn. So good times by them. Missouri head coach Eli Drinkowitz, he got a contract extension a couple weeks back, but now the numbers are out. He's going to make $46 million over 5 years, starting with $9 million in 2024. And you know what? Props to him. Not only is he a cool interview and just, I think, just a really good coach, he deserves it. They went 11-2. Missouri kicked some major butt this past year, so props to them. He is now going to be the 5th highest paid coach in the SEC out of the 16 teams. So there is that. All right, so my thanks to all of our guests today. We had Justin Lanham and Dr. John talking a little Aggie basketball. Katy Lee talking women's basketball. Jonathan Hutton talking all things. A little Pat McAfee in that conversation, the national championship game. Charean Williams, Aggies in the NFL, and of course, the great Olin Buchanan, who joined us there for the Go Hour. All right, tomorrow on the program, John Harris, Pat Henry, Tom Schuberth, Ryan Broniger. A lot to get into. That and pounding the rock, tapping Bents. How about that? They're going to be pounding the rock. That and much, much more. Thank you so much for watching and listening. This is TexAgs Radio. We'll see you mañana.